Chapter 1479. The completion of these two transactions was equivalent to earning another 12,000 law origin crystals for Lin Yuan. It was enough for the princess to spend a long time. Yuzhong City and Cloud Pool City needed such a large number of high-quality bronze phase, which was enough to prove the determination of these large cities to build mirror cities in the abyss world. Lin Yuan, who had an understanding of the dimensional world, knew how difficult it was to develop resources in a dimensional world. He did not know how many hard battles he would have to fight with the abyssal demons. The opening of the Class 6 Abyss Dimensional Rift and the establishment of the mirror cities in the abyss world would subtly increase the spirit chi professionals' courage. It would make the spirit chi professionals' beliefs and willpower stronger in the process of training in the abyss world. It could be said that the abyss world was the Radiance Federation's best place to prepare for war. Of course, the establishment of this place was all due to the Holiness's discovery of the Class 6 Abyss Dimensional Rift. They had swept through the abyss world day and night. They had driven away and killed all the powerful dimensional lifeforms in the abyss world. As for setting such a low price with the Cloud Pool City and Yuzhong City's city guard captains, it was mainly because Lin Yuan did not want to use the opening of the Class 6 Abyss Dimensional Rift to raise the price. It gave people a feeling of exclusive greed. Otherwise, at this juncture, when all the factions were recruiting creation masters, Lin Yuan was asking for 10 or even 15 Law's Origin crystals. Even if the Yuzhong City and Cloud Pool City's city guard captains did not agree at first, they would eventually have to pinch their noses and accept it. Lin Yuan increased the price by 1 Law Source crystal on the original basis of 5 Law Source crystals. It was for Indigo Azure City's city guard captain Feng Dong to see. He had already shown his friendliness to Feng Dong. As for how Sky City should treat Feng Dong, it completely depended on how many orders Feng Dong could bring to Sky City. Cloud Pool City and Yuzhong City were neighbors of Indigo Azure City. Duan He was currently leading the white-clothed followers to train near Indigo Azure City. After Lin Yuan hung up the phone with the Cloud Pool City and Yuzhong City's city guard captains, he called Duan He. Over the phone, Lin Yuan issued a mission to Duan He. He asked Duan He to lead these white-clothed followers and travel between Cloud Pool City, Yuzhong City, Stormy Wave City, and return from faraway manor. Duan He, who understood Lin Yuan's mission, immediately told him that he would complete it perfectly. In any case, Lin Yuan had already finished discussing the matter. Duan He would need to spend more effort on the delivery of the phase. Each of the white-clothed followers recruited by Sky City had comprehended at least 3 willpower runes. Due to their origins, most of the prodigies who had been lost in the Radiance continent had very weak main phase. However, with Lin Yuan's pouring of resources and Duan He's meticulous nurturing, Lin Yuan's cultivation had improved tremendously. These white-clothed followers were no longer the same as before. The sharp sword had been hidden in the scabbard for a long time. It was time to reveal its edge. This mission was the best time for the white followers to show off their abilities. I have awakened a willpower rune, I can be your servant. Can you please let my sister go? A teenager was kneeling on the black stone floor. The teenager kept banging his head on the ground, making loud banging sounds. The black stone floor was indeed bright, but the collision of flesh and blood with the ground was like an illusion. In the end, a huge bump appeared on the teenager's head. The bump on the teenager's head continuously hit the ground, and the blood squeezed out a hole on the skin of the forehead, staining the black stone floor. In front of the teenager was a middle-aged woman who was about 40 or 50 years old. The middle-aged woman's eyes did not even glance at the teenager. But when she saw the teenager's blood staining the black stone floor, a trace of disgust immediately appeared on the middle-aged woman's expressionless face. A trace of disgust immediately appeared on the middle-aged woman's expressionless face. It was as if she had seen something dirty. Seeing the middle-aged woman frown, the 2 men behind her hurriedly picked up the young man who was kneeling on the ground and prepared to throw him out. At that moment, the middle-aged woman stood up. Wait. After saying that, the middle-aged woman walked in front of the teenager and said in a disdainful tone, "Kid, you have a good idea. Kid, you sure have a good idea. You have awakened a willpower rune and want to stay in the castle as a servant. Are you trying to freeload one of my fays? It is your sister's fortune that the sixth young master has taken a fancy to her. If your sister stays by the sixth young master's side and serves him well, you might be able to live a better life in the future. After speaking, the middle-aged woman picked up the jade will on the table, turned around, and walked into the castle. When she left, the middle-aged woman used the jade will to gently roll on her face, maintaining her skin. Her expression was full of satisfaction. The teenager was left with his head on the ground. The dizzy teenager gritted his teeth, and his eyes were filled with hot tears. However, he did not dare to let his tears drip on the black stone floor. The sixth young master had taken a fancy to his sister, and his sister had no way of rejecting him. Because of this, the teenager told his sister the secret that his sister did not allow him to say. The two men beside the teenager had all kinds of tattoos on their bodies. One of the men had a totem tattoo on half of his face. It made the man look very fierce. Seeing that the teenager was about to cry, the man said playfully, "Kid, the master of our castle does not like to see people cry the most. Anyone who dares to cry in the castle will not have a good ending. If your tears fall, I won't have to throw you out." When the man said that, his face showed a ruthless expression. It was as if the teenager was going to kill the moment his tears fell. That was indeed the case. The other man said in an unfriendly tone, "Fourth brother, why are you wasting time with this kid? Throw him out so that we can go back and report. This kid's sister is with the sixth young master, we might have to go back. Send this kid's sister back." When the man said this, he purposely emphasized his voice. It was as if he wanted to purposely provoke the teenager he was holding up. Sure enough, as soon as the man's voice fell, the man felt the muscles of the teenager he was holding up tensed up. This was a man's bad taste. Men love to feel helpless and hopeless lives, fear, worry, and powerlessness. The teenager's fingernails had already pierced into his palm. However, compared to the pain in his hand and forehead, the teenager's heart hurt more. The teenager's parents passed away early, and he and his sister depended on each other since he was young. The teenager knew how good his sister was to him. It was not that the teenager did not think that his sister would marry someone in the future. Although the teenager was a little helpless against this, he did not dislike it. However, the sixth young master in this castle was basically a sick devil. His sister would fall into the hands of the sixth young master in less than 3 days. It was not the sixth young master who killed his sister. It was his sister who could not bear the humiliation and ended her life. Chapter 1480. Based on the youth's understanding of his sister. Compared to the former, the youth felt that the latter was more likely. At the thought of this, a feeling of despair filled the youth's heart. At this moment, the youth wished that he had enough strength to rush into the castle and take his sister away. He wanted to kill all the bad guys that obstructed him, including the sixth young master. All of a sudden, the youth felt a wave of dizziness. The incessant banging of his head on the ground had given the youth a concussion. Slowly, the youth's consciousness weakened. When the two tattooed men saw that the youth had fainted, they couldn't help but feel bored. When they walked out of the castle, they threw the youth at the castle's entrance as though he was a piece of trash. The youth's shabby and sorry state seemed out of place when compared to this imposing castle. After an unknown period of time, the youth felt a chill around his body and woke up. When the youth opened his eyes, it affected the wound on his forehead. The youth couldn't help but gasp in pain. The cool air poured into his throat and pulled the youth's thoughts back to reality. After looking in the direction of the Blackstone Castle, the youth staggered back home. He might not be able to see anyone in the vicinity of the Blackstone Castle. But in the dark, there were guards on duty. His sister must already know that he had come to the Blackstone Castle. If he lingered here and didn't leave, he might be killed by the guards. He couldn't do anything for his sister, and he didn't want his sister to be sad because of his death. At this moment, the youth wished for a miracle to happen. The first tattoo on his body was from his mother, and the second was from his father. After his parents died, his sister helped him tattoo them on his body. Back then, the youth still remembered that he had begged his sister to tattoo them on his parents. This way, the family could be reunited again. The youth clenched his fists tightly, and fresh blood dripped onto the ground from time to time. After walking out of the Blackstone Castle and arriving at the alley, the youth smashed his fist on the wall fiercely. In the Blackstone Castle, there was a Mother Earth, which was considered a mid-class noble in the entire Mother Goddess Federation. Above Mother Earth was Heavenly Mother. Mother Earth was usually held by Class 1 to Class 3 creation masters and experts below Emperor class. Heavenly Mother was held by Class 4 creation masters and experts above Emperor class. There was only one Mother Goddess in the entire Mother Goddess Federation. He was the only Class 5 creation master in the Mother Goddess Federation. The Mother Goddess Federation did not have the concept of Her Majesty. Overlord-ranked and above experts were collectively known as the Mother Goddess Guards. They protected the only Mother Goddess in the Mother Goddess Federation. The entire system of nobility was intricately linked. Mother Earth worked for Heavenly Mother, and Mother Earth could receive rewards from Heavenly Mother. The Heavenly Mother also worshipped the Mother Goddess. The entire pyramid of nobility was so dense that the youth could not even muster the will to resist. If a heavenly god descended, he would really be able to defeat old Mother Earth in Blackstone Castle. The guards that the Heavenly Mother left behind in the Blackstone Castle would definitely kill him. Even if he was lucky enough to defeat the Heavenly Mother's guards, the Divine Mother and the Divine Mother's guards would immediately chase after him. The only way to change one's fate was to become a creation master. Becoming the Mother Earth recognized by the Mother Goddess Federation. However, he was too young and couldn't afford to let the creation master appraise him and see if he had the talent of a creation master. Even so, when the young man thought of his sister, he still felt a surge of courage. If he could save his sister, he was willing to give up everything in exchange. When the young man returned home, he had lost too much blood and was overly nervous and exhausted. He immediately fainted. When he fainted, Bu Po's tightly clenched fists didn't loosen. Fresh blood seeped out from the gaps of his fingers and soaked the blanket, making it red with determination. A slightly old but abnormally massive ship was sailing in the wind and waves. The wood used on the giant ship had been soaked in seawater and corroded by the wind and rain. Not only did it not decay, but it was also in a stone-like state. The wooden body of the ship was embedded with steel cables of different lengths and thicknesses. On the outside of the steel cables, there was a layer of metallic spiritual materials. At the front and back of the ship, there were two giant ship lamps. Originally, there were two high-grade strange flames in the ship lamps. The high-grade strange flame, sunlight illumination flame, had a powerful illumination ability. In terms of illumination ability, even some top-notch strange flames were inferior. However, at this moment, the sunlight illumination flame in the ship lamps at the front and back had been specially taken out by someone. It was dusk, and the sea surface was gloomy as the wind and waves gradually weakened. However, under this gloomy sea surface, there were hundreds of black shadows that were at least 5 meters in size following the ship closely. Occasionally, the black shadows would come close to the surface, their black fins covered in sharp barbs. If these black shadows sped up, the fins on their backs could easily split through palm-thick ordinary wooden boards. Sounds of collisions continuously came from the bottom of the ship. It was clear that these black shadows were tirelessly hitting the bottom of the ship with their fins. Fortunately, the wood used to build the bottom of the ship had already turned to stone, and large amounts of metallic spiritual materials had been added as the connection points, making it unusually sturdy. But even so, the bottom of the ship was not covered in metallic spiritual materials. There were still many fine scratches. On the deck, the sailors sat down on the ground. Only a few were adjusting the sails, and the sailors on the watchtower were still exerting their strength. These sailors' lips were cracked, and their skin was rough and dry. Their entire person appeared unusually haggard. On the sea, in a place where water was everywhere, it was strange that their lips were cracked to such an extent. Even seawater could not be drunk directly. A bucket of seawater was taken up, the seawater was distilled, and a stone slab was placed on top of the bucket. The stone slab condensed the steam into water droplets. It could also gather half a bucket of fresh water. Half a bucket of fresh water was enough for a navigator to drink for a day. But the bad news was that there were hundreds of black shadows lurking under the water. Previously, there were sailors who risked their lives to use buckets to get water, but they did not expect these black shadows to have such strong jumping ability. There was originally no point of force in the water, but now they used the bucket as a point of force. The black shadow actually jumped onto the deck in an instant. On the deck, the black shadow could rely on its fleshy fins to move. Although it was clumsy, its sudden acceleration was still faster than the sailors. After paying the price of 5 sailors' lives, they finally killed this black shadow. Just by looking at the sailors on the ship, they were not surprised by the black shadows under the ship. It could be seen that these sailors had been besieged by the black shadows for a very long time. But fortunately, the black shadows from before had jumped onto the deck and were killed by the sailors. Otherwise, the sailors would not have any food to fill their stomachs. But the flesh of these black shadows, even if their stomachs were rumbling with hunger, they did not dare to eat. Because the more they ate, the more thirsty they would be. Eating when the body was extremely dehydrated was no different from suicide. Chapter 1481. Compared to starvation, lack of water was easier to take a sailor's life. Navigator Warren walked out of the cockpit with a sullen face. Warren's heart tightened as he looked at his brothers who had been with him for many years. The ship could only stay on the sea and drift with the current. These shadows were sawfin bite sharks, the nightmare of all Storm Federation navigators. In order to be able to sail long distances, the power system would be placed under the hull. However, these sawfin bite sharks dealt with the Storm Federation's ships all year round. They had learned how to destroy the Storm Federation's ships. These sawfin bite sharks would chase small turtle species phase in the sea. They would force the small turtle species phase to the power port under the hull and force them into the power port. They would block the power port. Even if the ship had backup power, it would still be unable to sail. If they wanted to sail, they could only get off the ship to clean the power port. Every adult sawtooth bite shark was at the peak of the gold rank. There had to be platinum sawtooth sharks in such a large group of sharks. No one on the ship could survive for more than 10 seconds after entering the water. Once someone entered the water, they would immediately be torn into pieces by the sawfin bite sharks, leaving only a red flower of blood. Suddenly a sailor fell headlong from the watchtower and landed on the deck. The watchtower was 10 meters tall, and the sailor who fell unconsciously was dead as soon as he touched the ground. Seeing the sailor who fell from the watchtower, the other sailors and Warren immediately ran over. After confirming that the sailor was dead, many sailors were in a state of extreme lack of water. 2 drops of tears rolled down their rough faces. Warren knew that the sailor had fallen from the watchtower because he had just fainted from thirst. If his brothers and himself were to be trapped here, they would definitely die. They would all be wiped out in less than 2 days. His Warren, which was named after him, would also become a ghost ship on the sea. Warren was no longer a young man but a middle-aged man in his 30s. However, Warren still had the drive of a young navigator in his heart. In the dangerous sea, he relied on the Storm Federation's unique shipbuilding technology to go out to sea with a few men to search for supplies. Occasionally, he could make a small profit. When he was young, Warren was a person who often talked about his dreams. Even though he was middle-aged, he was still working hard on the path of a navigator. But compared to his dreams, Warren hoped that he and his old buddies could survive. Thinking of this, Warren returned to the bottom of the cabin and took out the only barrel of wine left by his master, the old navigator. Although the strong liquor wasn't enough to quench their thirst, drinking it would still make the brothers feel better. Facing the withering lives, Warren felt that the things that he valued in the past were all gone. None of that mattered now. Only by living on could he and his old buddies pursue their dreams. Warren's sailors were all drunkards. Whenever he saw alcohol, it was as if he didn't care about his life. Every time he returned to the port, the first thing he did was to go to the bar to pass the time. However, when Warren took out the jar of wine, the sailors all refused, indicating that they could still bear it. Warren took out the jar of wine because he felt that his brothers' lives were more important than his own. But now, because his brothers knew that he treasured this jar of wine very much, they were not willing to drink it. The sour feeling in Warren's heart rumbled. Warren couldn't hold it in any longer. He forcefully pulled the cork off the barrel. As the cork left the barrel, the aroma of wine immediately wafted out. Warren said to the youngest sailor, "Little monkey, go and bring the bowls." Hearing Warren's words, the sailor called Little Monkey immediately ran to get the bowls. Warren keenly noticed that Little Monkey's wrist was tied with a piece of black cloth. Warren suddenly thought of the saw-toothed shark meat that Little Monkey had given him yesterday. Why were they all soaked in the water? Little Monkey was usually too naughty and always had conflicts with the old sailors on the deck. Warren always said that Little Monkey was immature. But now, it seemed that although Little Monkey was immature, he was much more humane than the ground. Little Monkey brought over a stack of bowls. As Warren poured the bowls, he found that one was missing. Just when Warren was about to ask Little Monkey waved his hand. "Brother Warren, I'm on duty tonight. I have to stand on the watchtower. I won't drink." Hearing this, Warren directly hugged Little Monkey. Without saying anything, he poured 2 bowls of wine into Little Monkey's mouth. "You don't have to stand on the watchtower tonight. I'll do it." When the little monkey heard this, it smacked its lips as if it was tasting the wine in its mouth for the last time. He said, "Brother Turbo, you can't do that." Turbo waved his hand and said, "Since I can't sail the ship, there's nothing for me to do as a navigator. Tonight, all of you go to the bottom of the cabin and have a good sleep. I'll go stand on the watchtower." "That's settled." After that, Warren picked up the bowl and drank a big bowl of wine. Warren was very strict with his sailors and did not allow them to drink while on duty. But now, looking at Little Monkey and his old buddies, Warren felt that if he didn't drink a bowl of wine, he wouldn't be able to suppress the despair and sorrow in his heart. At night, Warren leaned on the observation tower's railing and summoned his Fae, Binding Sea Fern. He ordered the Binding Sea Fern to reinforce the watchtower. No matter how hard such an adult tried, he wouldn't be able to climb down the watchtower. Warren, who was leaning against the fence, looked at the moon in the sky and sighed. Warren, who loved sunny days in the past, hoped that the dark clouds would cover the sky and it would rain heavily at this time. After waiting until midnight, when the sky was about to break, Warren, who was always determined, couldn't take it anymore. He fainted uncontrollably. Before he fainted, a thought popped up in Warren's mind. "If I can let myself and these old buddies survive, Warren, am willing to exchange everything for it." The stars shone brightly, and the Milky Way flowed among them. In the center of the Milky Way, the nebula rose with magnificent starlight. Under the nebula's encirclement, a long-awaited meeting was held once again. It was just that this time's meeting was slightly less compared to the previous 6 people. Su Iran didn't participate in this celestial body meeting. Instead, she was nurturing her 14 millet fruits. At this moment, facing the Libra constellation and Leo constellation, 3 figures formed from willpower and spirit appeared on the seats of the Andromeda constellation, Immortal constellation, and Leo Minor constellation. The people on the Leo Minor constellation were happy to see their own masters again. But when the people on the Andromeda constellation and Immortal constellation saw the figures on the Leo constellation seat, they couldn't help but have tears in their eyes. Suppressing the excitement and surprise in her heart, Lin spoke first. "Leo, Libra, long time no see." Chapter 1482. After saying, "Lion, Libra, it's been a long time," Lin did not know what kind of feelings she was filled with at this moment. This was because these feelings were simply too complicated. Rejoicing, relief, the joy of regaining what was lost, or relief after thinking hard for a long time. In short, she once again saw that man with the myriad Taoist willpower and laws entwined around him. That man was still here. Upon hearing Lin's words, Lin Yuan spoke to her apologetically. The last celestial council should have gone on as usual, but something happened, so it couldn't be held as scheduled. But this problem won't happen again. While Lin Yuan was speaking, Wen Yu looked at Yin Lin with some scrutiny. As a woman, Wen Yu's senses were very sharp. Wen Yu could feel from Yin Lin's words to Lin Yuan that she had a special feeling for him. This feeling was much hotter than friendship. This feeling was as turbulent as the mother of bloodbath's suppressed feelings for Lin Yuan. Wen Yu quietly glanced at Lin Yuan and sighed. The youth beside her was simply too outstanding. But to be honest, Yin Lin's identity was quite compatible with Lin Yuan's. Fortunately, there was no such thing as a marriage alliance between Biyao and Lin Yuan. The Moon Empress would not allow others to force Lin Yuan to marry without his consent. Otherwise, after Yin Lin learned of Lin Yuan's identity in reality, she would reveal her identity and make their relationship clear. It was very likely that she would really become Lin Yuan's. Yin Lin did not know what was going on in Wen Yu's mind. If Yin Lin really knew Wen Yu's thoughts, she would immediately be at a loss whether to laugh or cry. However, after that, Yin Lin would reflect on it. Reflect on what kind of gratitude she had for Lin Yuan. Or was it a kind of hazy affection? Just as Lin Yuan was about to continue speaking, a figure condensed from willpower and laws suddenly appeared in front of him and hugged him. This person was Bei Su. Bei Su's behavior made Wen Yu, who was sitting on the Libra seat, unable to react at all. Wen Yu's brows furrowed immediately. Everyone in the Celestial Council was in the form of willpower and souls. Only Lin Yuan and Wen Yu, who sat on the 12 golden thrones, could judge the souls in the Celestial Council. No matter what Bei Su did, he could not hurt Lin Yuan. However, in Wen Yu's eyes, Bei Su's actions were a little too overbearing. Lin Yuan was also stunned by Bei Su's hug. Immediately after, a smile appeared on his face. Lin Yuan's body, which was composed of thousands of laws and willpower, gently opened his arms and hugged Bei Su. It was a response to Bei Su's long-awaited reunion. Lin Yuan gently patted Bei Su's back. After Bei Su's emotions stabilized, Lin Yuan released Bei Su's embrace. Bei Su was too surprised and excited just now. Bei Su, who had now recovered, couldn't help but blush at the thought of his previous actions. Bei Su used to be a lowly cursed stone worm that mined in the underground world. It was Lin Yuan who had helped Bei Su get rid of the cursed stone worm's identity. It gave Bei Su a new life. Lin Yuan had prepared all kinds of Fey enhancement potions and knowledge for himself, regardless of whether they were big or small. It could be said that Bei Su, who was originally alone, had already regarded Lin Yuan as his most cherished person. Bei Su scratched his head in embarrassment, just like a little kid. He returned to his seat at Immortal Constellation Mountain. Seeing Bei Su return to his seat, Trey couldn't help but curl his lips. I haven't hugged Master yet. Why did Immortal Constellation hug Master first? Trey had the temperament of a young man. Just as he was about to go forward and hug Lin Yuan said very seriously, the South Corona will not participate in the Celestial Council this time. Lin Yuan's words stunned Yin Lin, Bei Su, and Trey. The three of them clearly remembered that the South Corona had signed a contract with the seat at the previous Celestial Council. Why didn't he appear at the Celestial Council this time? Could it be that the South Corona had offended the lion and scale and was chased out by them? Or had something happened to the South Corona in these 14 days? Just as the three of them were letting their imaginations run wild, they heard Lin Yuan explain. I have already met the South Corona in the real world. I have some matters to discuss with the South Corona in the real world. Therefore, the South Corona will not participate in most of the Celestial Council in the future. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Yin Lin, Bei Su, and Trey revealed a look of understanding. Then, the three of them became envious. This was because Yin Lin, Bei Su, and Trey also wanted to meet Lin Yuan in the real world. What would a lion look like in reality? He recalled that Lin Yuan had told him to go to the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce to exchange the strange water for heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls after arriving in the Radiance Federation. Yin Lin asked. Lion, I will reach the Radiance Federation in less than a month. Did I see you when I went to the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce to exchange for resources? The moment she asked this question, Yin Lin's tone was filled with anticipation. Upon hearing Yin Lin's words, Lin Yuan shook his head gently. Upon seeing Lin Yuan shake his head, Yin Lin's expression immediately dimmed. At that moment, Lin Yuan said, "That's right. You probably won't see me when you go to the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce to exchange for the Heavenly Maiden-grade elemental pearls. However, you will definitely have a chance to meet me when you stay in Radiance." Upon hearing that, Yin Lin's face immediately revealed a smile. No matter what, he would be able to see Lin Yuan on this trip to the Radiant City. Yin Lin had already regarded it as her greatest gain. Yin Lin could not help but imagine Lin Yuan's appearance in reality. After chatting with Yin Lin for a while, Lin Yuan looked at Bei Su. He asked Bei Su. "It should be very difficult to develop in the underground world, right? Are there any problems that need to be solved or areas that need help?" Upon hearing that, Bei Su hurriedly replied, "Lion. During this time, I have pulled up a 10-man squad in the underground world. Everyone in this 10-man team has a contract with a source-type life form. Recently, I have been leading this squad to clear dimensional rifts below Class 2. On one hand, it can train their combat strength, and on the other hand, they can obtain more resources." At that point, Bei Su suddenly thought of something. "Lion, the bat-shaped ring you gave me already contains a lot of minerals. I don't know how many times better these minerals are than the ones I dug before. Lion, how can I send these minerals to you?" Upon hearing Bei Su's words, Lin Yuan could not help but be a little speechless. Lin Yuan did not expect that Bei Su would think of giving him the resources that he had obtained with his life at this time. Chapter 1483. He had no way of obtaining these resources previously. Now that the Celestial Body Assembly had reached Class 3, Lin Yuan had an idea. He just wanted to use the Celestial Council's Celestial Soul Chair to exchange things with Bei Su. It consumed more law energy than what he had used to teleport Bei Su's items. Lin Yuan did not need the minerals produced from the Class 1 and Class 2 underground dimensional rifts at all. When looking at Bei Su's hopeful eyes, Lin Yuan said, "Don't worry. You can think of a way to forge the ores you've collected into simple equipment that you can wear. Even if your subordinates contract source-type items, it should be difficult for them to defeat an ordinary Class 1 underground creature, right?" To put it nicely, Lin Yuan felt that Bei Su was training his companions. To put it bluntly, Bei Su had to protect these people at all times. Bei Su's team didn't have any creation masters. There was no way to improve the strength of his subordinate source-type items through the spirit materials they discovered. However, he could deliver supplies to Bei Su once or twice. If Lin Yuan were to take care of Bei Su's phase expenses, Bei Su's subordinates wouldn't be able to afford it. That would be a huge burden for him. Lin Yuan would not do that, but it was not like there was no way to change the current situation. There were two ways to change this situation. One was for Lin Yuan to teleport 100 Questions Beast to Bei Su. 100 Questions Beast with the ability of a Pinnacle Class 3 Creation Master would be able to improve the Bei Su team within a short period of time. However, the 100 Questions Beast was of great importance. It could affect the balance of the entire origin world. Even if he sent the 100 Questions Beast to Bei Su without worry, the 100 Questions Beast's ability would be exposed in the rock continent. It would immediately bring about a fatal disaster to Bei Su. Of course, there was another way. Lin Yuan had asked Genius to transmit the Creation Master's knowledge to Bei Su through the end of the connection. In the Celestial Body Council, everyone's body was made up of their soul and will. Lin Yuan couldn't see if Bei Su had Creation Master talent just by looking at the body formed by the soul and willpower. Once Bei Su grasped the knowledge of a Creation Master, he would see if he could concoct the spirit fluid. If he could, it would prove that Bei Su had the talent of a Creation Master. Bei Su would be completely self-sufficient in the future. However, if not, Lin Yuan would have a headache. Upon hearing that, Bei Su could not help but feel a little ashamed. None of his teammates could fight. While cleaning up the underground dimensional rift, Bei Su spent most of his energy on taking care of his subordinates' safety. However, These subordinates greatly affected the speed at which Bei Su collected resources. But Bei Su couldn't just leave these subordinates alone. On one hand, Bei Su's emotions didn't allow him to do this. On the other hand, Lin Yuan's goal was to establish a faction. Once he lost these subordinates, Bei Su's desire to build a force could only be empty talk. Because no matter how strong Bei Su became, he couldn't call himself a force. Just as Bei Su was at a loss for words, Lin Yuan stood up and nodded at Wen Yu. The Leo nebula above his head shone brightly, and a belt of light appeared under his seat. This light belt was connected to the immortal constellation seat in the north. Lin Yuan did not tell Bei Su what he was going to do. Instead, he spoke to Yin Lin, Bei Su, and Trey in unison. After the Celestial Body Conference, you can communicate with the Celestial Body Conference through the nebula at any time. However, the transmission of this information will be accompanied by a great deal of consumption. If it's not something important, try not to send a message to the Celestial Body Conference. Lin Yuan's words delighted Bei Su, Yin Lin, and Trey. Previously, the three of them could only enter the Celestial Body Conference through deep sleep. This caused the three of them to feel a sense of insecurity. They were afraid that the Celestial Body Conference would no longer be open. Waiting was the most unbearable. But now, they had the ability to communicate with the Celestial Body Conference. Even if they didn't use this ability, it could make people feel especially at ease. Through the Star Spirit Chair and Genius's exclusive skill, the Interconnection Tail, he transmitted the knowledge to Bei Su. It would only be transmitted to Bei Su's mind after the Celestial Body Conference was over. Lin Yuan didn't need to say much, and Bei Su would naturally know what to do. Such a large amount of knowledge was transmitted to Bei Su through Genius's exclusive skill, the Interconnection Tail, and it took Lin Yuan a lot of willpower. These willpower were all fragmented willpower absorbed from the incomplete fantasy breed phase corpses. It was these willpower that gave the princess dress many messy scenes and textures. After getting rid of these wills, the princess's skirt would become much more beautiful than before. After dealing with Bei Su's matter, Lin Yuan asked Trey, who was at the side. Do you know the Nanmas city on the border of the Divine Wood Federation that is closest to the Iron Hammer Federation? Trey nodded and said, Master, I've definitely heard of Nanmas city. However, if the border collapses and we reach the territory of the Divine Wood Federation, our Iron Hoof tribe might be killed before we can even reach Nanmas city. We can only go as far as the border, where the Depreem caravan sells their goods. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan replied, As long as you know the exact location of Nanmas city. When you reach the border of the Divine Wood Federation, don't bring everyone from the Iron Hoof tribe to Nanmas city. Have the stronger members of your tribe disguise themselves, and then go to Flourishing Prosperity Merchant Guild to find the guild leader, Li Wan. Tell Li Wan that you're looking for someone called Suiran. She'll make arrangements for you. Trey carefully noted down Lin Yuan's words. After arranging Yin Lin, Bei Su, and Talei's situation, Lin Yuan was in a daze. He was ready to let Wen Yu start selecting the new members of the Celestial Council. Lin Yuan said to Yin Lin and the others. Next, there will be 2 new members in the Celestial Council. In the future, if you have something important to do and are particularly busy, you don't have to attend the Celestial Council every 7 days. After deepening the connection between the Celestial Council and you, every time the Celestial Council opens, the astrology will communicate with you. As long as you respond to the astrology, you don't need to sleep to enter the Celestial Council. After saying that, Lin Yuan nodded at Wen Yu. Wen Yu immediately activated the Celestial Council. When Wen Yu activated the Celestial Council, the astrology hidden during the day automatically moved rhythmically. Immediately after, a figure with a willpower rune wrapped around its body appeared in the Celestial Council. The figure that suddenly appeared in the Celestial Council looked at the 2 figures sitting on the golden thrones under the resplendent nebula. He felt as if he was looking at a god. Chapter 1484. While this figure was confused, Lin Yuan and Wen Yu had already used the Celestial Council's ability. He began to investigate this figure's background and experiences. At a glance, Lin Yuan and Wen Yu frowned at the same time, and their faces suddenly darkened. After checking this figure's background, Lin Yuan and Wen Yu decided to let this figure stay in the Celestial Council. He became the 5th contractor of the Southern Sky Constellation Throne. Ever since Lin Yuan had become a spirit chi professional, he had helped many people. Every one of these people had some misfortune in one way or another. Due to the Insect Queen's injury, Lu Jia had gone from a Radiance 100 sequence member to an ordinary person who could not even use phase. Because when you had helped her companions, her talent had been damaged and she had been ostracized by her companions. As for Qin Luan and Qin Yu, because of the awakening of their beast marks, their bodies were unable to touch sunlight. However, compared to Qin Luan, Qin Yu, Wen Yu, and Lu Jia, this figure was much more unfortunate. Or rather, using the word unfortunate to describe this figure's experience was somewhat inaccurate. The experience of this figure could only be described as pitiful. According to this figure's memories and experiences, Lin Yuan knew that this figure was just a teenager who had accidentally awakened a willpower rune. Ever since he was born, his fate had been full of misfortune, and he had never been able to get what he wanted. All kinds of hardships, big and small, were piled on Bu Po's body. Bu Po and his sister, who depended on each other for survival, simply could not breathe. The fact that his sister was kidnapped and forced to get married was the last straw that broke the camel's back. But the root of all this couldn't be said to be the youth's misfortune. Instead, it was because this young man was in an extremely deformed federation, the Mother Goddess Federation. He already had a certain understanding of the Mother Goddess Federation. The Agro-Pattern main road was in the southwest of the Radiance continent, and it was the closest continent to the Radiance continent. Apart from the Terror Pattern continent, there was another continent that was very close to the Radiance continent. This continent was called the Fearful Sand continent. There were 2 great federations on the Frost Sand continent. One of them was the Mother Goddess Federation where Bu Po was. On the Frost Sand continent, the Mother Goddess Federation and the Sand Continent Federation were neighbors. Each of the 2 major federations had a Class 5 Creation Master. However, as compared to the number of Class 4 Creation Masters, the Sand Province Federation had nearly 3 times more than the Mother Goddess Federation. But under such circumstances, the Mother Goddess Federation was still able to stand against the Sand Continent Federation, and was not at a disadvantage. It was because of the Mother Goddess Federation's special system of governance. The ruling system of the Mother Goddess Federation was only divided into 3 ranks: Mother Earth, Mother Heaven, and Mother Goddess. Mother Goddess was the only one in the Federation, and Heavenly Mother controlled Mother Earth. Mother Earth had absolute authority among ordinary people. As long as Mother Earth followed the rules, she could decide the life and death of ordinary people. Bu Po's sister was fancied by a son of Mother Earth, and if this son of Mother Earth directly did something to Bu Po's sister, it would be against the rules. But if Mother Earth's youngest son married Bu Po's elder sister, Bu Po would be the one to die. Whatever Bu Po's youngest son did would belong to Mother Earth's family affairs. Such rigid rules were simple and crude, and there was no logic to speak of at all. Even the only Divine Mother in the Divine Wood Federation had to be restricted by the Divine Mother Guards in certain matters. For example, the Mother Goddess could not marry for her entire life. At the same time, the Mother Goddess had to accept disciples in her prime. He would also pass down his Class 5 Creation Master path to his disciple. This way, the Mother Goddess Federation's Class 5 Creation Masters could be passed down from generation to generation, repeating the cycle. When mentioning the Mother Goddess Federation, Lin Yuan could clearly feel that his master, the Moon Empress, was unwilling to talk more. Lin Yuan could see that his master hated the Mother Goddess Federation from the bottom of her heart. At that time, Lin Yuan didn't know why his master had such a great hostility toward the Mother Goddess Federation. Moreover, there was some disdain in it. Now that Lin Yuan understood the true situation of the Mother Goddess Federation, he had the same feeling. Lin Yuan's previous impression of the Mother Goddess Federation was that the people loved tattoos. From birth to death, a person would often be covered in tattoos. However, based on Bu Po's experience, Lin Yuan had a more intuitive understanding of the Mother Goddess Federation. At that moment, Lin Yuan heard Bu Po murmur. Am I dreaming? Or am I already dead? Bu-po was obviously worried when she said that she was already dead. According to his perception, Lin Yuan understood that Bu-po was afraid that her sister would miss him and be sad for him after knowing. Looking at Bu-po's confused look, Lin Yuan asked, "You're not dead. Welcome to the Celestial Body Council. Do you remember the wish you made before you fell asleep?" Upon hearing that, Bu-po stared at the two figures sitting on the golden thrones in disbelief. Of course, Bu-po remembered what she was thinking before she fell asleep. Even after falling unconscious, Bu-po was still thinking about how to save her sister. Bu-po didn't even have the time to exclaim that there really were immortals in this world. "Dear immortals, if you can save my sister, I will do anything for you. I beg you, please save my sister." Before his voice faded, Bu-po's body, which was transformed from her soul and will, had already knelt on the ground devoutly. His eyes were filled with hope. In the Mother Goddess Federation, dignity was the most important thing. Because only some people take dignity as a breath, to support their spine. Only then would they have the courage to continue living under the layers of pressure. But now, Bu-po's actions had thrown away her dignity and bottom line. This meant that Bu-po valued her sister's feelings 10,000 times more than her own dignity. Bu-po's request could be considered as a response to the Celestial Council's oath. However, if Lin Yuan wanted to help Bu-po save her sister, he had to think carefully about how to do it. The best way was to make Bu-po become an Earth Mother. However, Bu-po didn't have either of the two conditions to become an Earth Mother. Bu-po was now only a D-rank spirit chi professional who had awakened a willpower rune by chance, but she had never contracted a fey. Therefore, it was simply impossible for Bu-po to become a king-class expert. Even if Lin Yuan could prepare a bronze/epic fey for Bu-po. At the same time, he also sent over the diamond spirit fluid of this bronze/epic fey. Given Bu-po's spirit chi professional rank, she couldn't contract it. Therefore, if he wanted to help Bu-po get out of this predicament, he could only try the second way. This second way was like Lin Yuan betting on whether Bei Su had the talent to become a creation master. He was betting on whether Bu-po had the talent to become a creation master. However, if Bei Su lost the gamble, it would be as simple as not being able to enhance his subordinate source-type lifeforms. If Bu-po lost the gamble, she would lose her sister because of this. Lin Yuan had never experienced Bu-po's situation before, but he could put himself in her shoes. Chapter 1485. He could not imagine what would happen if Chu Xiai encountered the same situation as Bu-po's big sister. How would he feel when he was powerless to do anything? However, after thinking about it, the only way to solve the problem was to bet on Bu-po's talent. After all, the current Celestial Council was still unable to teleport powerhouses over. He couldn't teleport Bu-po over. However, if Bu-po really had the talent of a creation master, she would become a Class 3 creation master in a short time with Lin Yuan's help. Bu-po was only 15 years old now. A Class 3 creation master at such a young age in the Radiance Federation, all of them could be called geniuses that were rarely seen in the world. If Heavenly Mother of the Mother Goddess Federation discovered an outstanding Mother Earth, she would be rewarded by Mother Goddess. Thus, the Heavenly Mother of the Mother Goddess Federation would usually try her best to help the Mother Earth that she discovered. After Bu-po's innate talent was discovered by the Heavenly Mother, in order to receive a reward, Bu-po's innate talent was discovered by the Heavenly Mother. She would definitely report Bu-po's situation to the Divine Mother. It was rumored that the Mother Goddess of the Mother Goddess Federation had already accepted 4 disciples. Presumably, the Mother Goddess of the Mother Goddess Federation wouldn't mind accepting another talented disciple like Bu-po, right? At that thought, Lin Yuan said to Wen Yu. Tian Cheng, it was Lyra constellation that brought Bu-po into the Celestial Body Council. Let Bu-po sign a contract with Lyra constellation. Wen Yu said to Bu-po upon hearing this. Lion allows you to join the Celestial Council. Place your hand on the back of the Lyra seat beside you. Use your soul to sign a contract with this Lyra throne. Bu-po hurriedly stood up when she heard this. He clumsily placed his palm on the back of the Lyra seat. Bupa knew that the reason why he said that was because he had agreed to her request. His sister could finally be saved. Even though Zhang Xian did not know how the other party would help him, he was confident that the other party would be able to lure him here. This meant that the other party was definitely very powerful. In any case, none of the Mother Earths that Bupa had seen before had such an ability. The moment Bupa placed her palm on the back of the Lyra seat, among the thousands of nebulae above his head, the Lyra nebula shone brightly. Lyra constellation's radiance landed on Bupo's body, causing Bupo's entire body to become resplendent. At the same time, the astral soul chair of the Celestial Council connected to Bupa. Lin Yuan used Genius exclusive skill, Interconnection Tail, to transfer a massive amount of Creation Master knowledge to Bupa. After transmitting the knowledge, Lin Yuan said to Bupa, "Now, I will send you away from the Celestial Council. You already have the ability to communicate with the Celestial Council. After you leave, use your family's current savings to buy spirit materials according to the things that have appeared in your mind. If you can concoct these spirit materials into a spirit liquid, you'll know what to do next. If you can't do anything with the spiritual materials you bought, contact me through the Celestial Council." As soon as he said that, when you sent Bupo away from the Celestial Council. After Bupo left the Celestial Body Council, she slowly woke up. Before Bupa could determine whether what she had just experienced was real or just a dream, a voice suddenly rang out. An explosion of information appeared in Bupo's mind. Bupa spent almost a day in dizziness before she recovered from it. Bupo's stomach was rumbling with hunger, and she was in no mood to eat. Bupo's heart was filled with gratitude and excitement. Bupa knew that she had met a benefactor. Right now, Bupa felt that as long as she obtained the spiritual ingredients, she would be able to produce the spirit fluid that only creation masters could concoct. With excitement and apprehension, Bupa carefully took half of her and her sister's savings from under the bed. Bupa planned to use this money to buy some scarlet fruits. With the scarlet fruits, fish lantern grass, and 7 or 8 supplementary spiritual materials, she could concoct a spirit liquid called the Scarlet Elixir. The Scarlet Elixir was for animal species phased to drink and could enhance their physical strength. Of course, spirit chi professionals could also drink the Scarlet Elixir. The Scarlet Elixir could quickly replenish a spirit chi professional's physical strength. Bupa planned to concoct a bottle of Scarlet Elixir. If she succeeded, Bupa could directly report to the Creation Master Alliance. She could find Heavenly Mother in the Creation Master Alliance and apply for the identity of Mother Earth. If she could not, Bupa would quickly contact the person who had made a promise to her in the stars. After all, her sister did not have much time left. The Divine Wood Federation's wedding process was a total of 4 days. The 3rd day was to meet each other's parents. Her parents were already dead, so she wanted to save her sister. Bupa could only use it for 1 day. After buying the spiritual materials, Bupa did not return home. She simply rented the most ordinary room in the Creation Master Alliance. Bupa tried to concoct the Scarlet Elixir according to the knowledge in her mind. Although she had the knowledge, Bupo's movements were very rusty. However, 20 minutes later, a crystal bottle of dark red spirit liquid appeared in Bupo's hand. After Bupa tried to drink the bottle of dark red elixir, Bupo's tears flowed out. These tears were not sad, but tears of joy. Bupa knew that she was now qualified to become the Mother Earth of the Goddess Federation. This way, she could be on equal footing with the 6th young master's father who had snatched her sister away. Bupa could finally rescue her sister. From now on, Bupa decided that she would protect her sister while repaying the 2 figures who had redeemed her in the stars. However, Bupa did not know that she was about to become famous in the Goddess Federation. She would become the youngest Class 3 creation master on the Cold Sand continent. She would even be accepted as a disciple by the goddess who only existed in legends. Because of the grand meeting in the stars, a change in the Cold Sand continent had quietly begun. After sending Bupa back, she continued to use the astrology. She searched for other people who were willing to exchange everything for a wish. However, this choice made Lin Yuan and Wenyu rather awkward. Many of these people were not in a difficult situation, and what they wanted was not what they needed. Most of them wanted money that they could not spend in their lifetime and a high position. They even wanted women that they could not get. Even if Lin Yuan could help them fulfill these wishes, he could not do it. Otherwise, if he helped these people fulfill their wishes, Lin Yuan would become a heinous bully. Moreover, the Celestial Council did not need such people. At that moment, a figure with two wills appeared in the Celestial Council. After this figure appeared, he was only stunned for a moment before he checked the surrounding situation. This meant that this person had seen the world. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for him to cultivate such a calm demeanor. Chapter 1486. Yin Lin, Bei Su, and Talei looked at the figure that was looking around and muttered in their hearts. They had obviously forgotten that when they first entered the Celestial Council, they were not as calm as this figure in front of them. Lin Yuan and Wen Yu had already started to look into the memories and life experiences of this figure with two willpower runes entwined around it. After looking at it, Lin Yuan and Wen Yu looked at each other. This time, Lin Yuan and Wen Yu did not immediately decide to let this figure join the Celestial Council. Instead, they asked the figure, "Do you know why you are here?" Lin Yuan's question attracted Warren's attention. When Warren had first arrived in this starry world, he had thought that he was hallucinating due to excessive thirst. But soon, Warren realized that things were not as simple as he thought. This was because Warren could clearly feel the power of laws and willpower from the two figures sitting on the golden thrones. The power of laws and willpower was not something that could be dreamed of. If a person dreamed of laws and willpower, they would be able to dream of the power of laws and willpower. Then, the awakening of willpower runes would not be a problem that troubled all spirit chi professionals. In addition, Warren could keenly feel the three people sitting on the golden thrones not far away from him. They were looking at him with inquisitive and curious eyes. This meant that he had mistakenly entered a strange world. After hearing Lin Yuan's question, Warren could not help but ponder. Warren really did not know why he was here. Warren also wanted to know the reason why he could come here. Warren thought about his words and said with some restraint, "My lord, I am just a small navigator." "My lord, I'm just a lowly navigator. I don't know why I'm here. Please tell me." Lin Yuan was not surprised at all when he heard that. According to Warren's memories and life experiences, Lin Yuan understood what kind of person Warren was. It was difficult for a person who had fainted due to extreme thirst to remember the last thought when he was awake. Lin Yuan had to give him some pointers. "You were able to come here because you used your entire being to make a wish. And I can fulfill your wish." Lin Yuan's words made Warren's heart skip a beat. After Warren carefully recalled, he immediately knew what was going on. Then, he was pleasantly surprised. In that case, he and his brothers could be saved. At that moment, Warren heard Lin Yuan continue to speak. "But before that, you need to let me know what you can do for me." Back then, when the Heavenly Body Council took in Bei Su, Yin Lin, Tali, and Bu Pe, Lin Yuan had directly absorbed them into the Celestial Council and had not asked questions like, "What can you do for me?" However, he was relatively harsh when facing Warren and Su Yiren. This was because the Zui and Warren were very purposeful people. All Su Yiren could think about was surviving and reclaiming the Dark Continent. Warren, on the other hand, was thinking about how to have better adventures and become a better navigator. Warren had ideals, but Warren's current ideals conflicted with the goals of the Celestial Council. What the Celestial Council needed was a leader and decision-maker who could build a force in the new continent and expand the territory of the Sky City. He was never an adventurer who was full of the spirit of adventure. If Warren could choose between reality and ideals, he could become a seed that Sky City sowed on the new continent. Only then would Warren be worthy of being saved. There were many pitiful people in the world who were about to lose their lives. If Lin Yuan did not save Warren, he could save others. There was no difference. When Warren heard Lin Yuan's question, he immediately calmed down and carefully pondered over Lin Yuan's words. Soon, Warren sensed the hint of a different meaning in Lin Yuan's words. Lin Yuan was asking what he could do for them. He was not asking what he was worth. When he had introduced himself, he had said that he was a navigator. Obviously, in the eyes of the figure sitting on the golden throne, navigators had no value. As early as when he was on the brink of death, Warren had already questioned the ideal of adventure. If he did not know the danger, he would have gone to the southwest to explore the island. He would not have been surrounded by the sawfin bite sharks. Before he fainted, Warren even had the idea of opening a tavern at the port. However, compared to a navigator, the owner of a tavern was obviously less valuable. After thinking about it, Warren thought of a way to show his value. "My lord, I have been adventuring in the sea since I was young. Although I did not have much experience in adventuring, as a veteran navigator, I have accumulated a lot of connections. If my lord needs, and your location is close to the Storm Federation, I can gather a sailing team to help you. In addition, I will use spiritual materials to build large ships. These large ships may not be comparable to the island whale, but they can be worry-free in the sea. However, as long as you are willing to invest in the construction of large ships, you can use spiritual materials that are above gold, and you can resist the attack of diamond sea beasts." Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan immediately became interested and asked, "You are saying that special ships built with gold spiritual materials can resist the attack of diamond sea beasts? What about ships built with diamond spiritual materials? Can they resist the attack of myth-breed sea beasts?" Warren was secretly shocked when he heard this. How many diamond spiritual materials would be used to build a large ship with all diamond spiritual materials? The amount of spiritual materials consumed was beyond Warren's imagination. The figure who asked the question obviously did not care about diamond spiritual materials. Warren deliberated and said, "My lord, myth-breed sea beasts are usually able to borrow the power of the sea through the rules. There is an old saying among us navigators that if we encounter myth-breed sea beasts, we will definitely die. Even if we use diamond spiritual materials to build a large ship, it may still not be able to resist the crazy attack of myth-breed sea beasts. However, if we encounter fantasy-breed sea beasts, even if they are new suzerain fantasy-breed sea beasts, I believe that a large ship built with diamond spiritual materials can withstand it." After hearing Warren's words, Lin Yuan decided to recruit Warren into the Celestial Council. Sea beasts were rampant in the origin world, and it was much easier to use large ships to replace island whales for trade than nurturing floating island whales. However, if there were any problems along the way, they would immediately lose everything. The Storm Federation's shipbuilding technology was famous in the origin world. In the Storm Federation, those who could call themselves navigators were all driving their own ships to sail on the sea. However, in the Storm Federation, these navigators had another name. They were called pirates. Chapter 1487. The source of income for navigators was often to drive their own ships to those desolate and uninhabited islands to plunder resources. There were even some navigators who engaged in piracy at sea. According to Warren's memories, Lin Yuan knew that Warren belonged to the former. This must be the reason why Warren said that he had a certain reputation among the navigators. Warren had saved many navigators who were being robbed from pirates while they were sailing on the sea. In the origin world, it was extremely risky to rely on the Storm Federation's shipbuilding technology to run on the trade route. However, if this shipbuilding technology was used in the swamp world, it would be completely different. Lin Yuan's current territory in the swamp world was already extremely vast. He had very few manpower in the swamp world. The collection of resources in this territory could only rely on powerhouses like the slaughtering sky butterfly. However, if there were large ships in the swamp world, then once these ships set out, they would not be able to reach the swamp world. That way, they could search for large amounts of soil hidden in the swamp. With Bai Xian leading the fleet, none of the marsh crocodiles dared to attack. In addition, Lin Yuan learned from Sea Empress Indai that most of the sea regions were guarded by sea empresses or sea kings. If he could inform the sea emperor or sea king of a certain sea region in advance, in that case, even without the island whale, they would not encounter any danger by just relying on a small boat to sail on the sea. Among Lin Yuan's current subordinates, there was Sea Empress Indai. The distance between the Radiance Federation and the Storm Federation was about the same as the distance between the Radiance Federation and the Azure Federation. Back then, the Azure Federation and the Radiance Federation had been able to establish the Radiance Blue navigation path because they had built a good relationship with the sea creatures on the entire navigation path. If Dai of the 8 great clans of the Sea Kingdom went to make arrangements, or used some special methods, they would not be able to deal with it. Could a Radiance Wind Sea route be established between the Radiance Federation and the Storm Federation? Of course, these were not things that Lin Yuan could consider at the moment. Currently, Warren's best course of action was to establish a force of navigators in the Storm Federation. Lin Yuan should be thinking about how to help Warren get through the current crisis. Your ability has proven your worth. Now, you can place your hand on the back of the Ophiuchus throne and sign a contract with it. Warren hurriedly signed a contract with the Ophiuchus throne. He asked, "Sir, what do I need to do after this?" Lin Yuan nodded. He said, "Use your connections among the Voyagers to form an organization with the Voyagers as its main function. I'll tell you what happens next after you've finished building your force." At this point, Lin Yuan changed the topic and asked, "You were trapped by a few hundred soft-biting sharks. What is your spirit chi professional rank now?" Warren hurriedly replied, "My lord, I am an A-rank spirit chi professional." Lin Yuan asked curiously after hearing Warren's answer. "You're an A-rank spirit chi professional. Why is your main fey, the binding sea fern, only at gold 9/fantasy I?" Lin Yuan's question made Warren a little ashamed. In fact, Warren's armored sea fern had been a gold 9/epic fey previously. Warren might be an A-rank spirit chi professional, but he had been adventuring for a long time and had invested all his expenses on the ship. Therefore, Warren had not been able to find a creation master to enhance his main fey. The reason why Warren upgraded the binding sea fern was because he wanted to take a gamble in the face of danger. Warren used the 4 platinum tree cores he had collected on the island to feed the armored sea fern. The armored sea fern's quality had been upgraded from epic to legend. Warren then used one of his willpower runes suitable for the armored sea fern to fuse with the gold 9/legend armored sea fern. It turned the armored sea fern into a gold 9/fantasy I fantasy breed fey. However, Warren did not expect the armored sea fern's strength upgrade to not be able to save the ship's predicament. Apart from the gold soft-biting sharks, there were also platinum soft-biting sharks. In the sea, the gold/fantasy breed armored sea fern could easily crush a gold soft-biting shark. It could also fight with 2 of them and not be at a disadvantage. However, among the hundreds of soft-biting sharks underwater, there were at least 20 platinum soft-biting sharks. As long as the gold/fantasy breed armored sea fern dared to enter the water, it would soon be torn into pieces by the platinum soft-biting sharks. In addition, Warren also found a few shadows that were about 10 meters long. The soft-biting sharks would be able to reach platinum when they were 7 or 8 meters long, and they would most likely reach diamond when they were 10 meters long. Warren deeply regretted that he had not poured his main financial resources into increasing his strength. Even though he was ashamed, since Lin Yuan had asked this question. Warren explained his situation to Lin Yuan in detail. After hearing Warren's answer, Lin Yuan felt that Warren was indeed a crazy adventurer. Warren's spirit chi professional rank also allowed Lin Yuan to find a way to help him. Through communicating with Warren, Lin Yuan found out that Warren's contract direction was for control-type aquatic phase. Through communicating with Genius, Lin Yuan found out that the 100 Questions Beast Legion's inventory didn't have the spirit fluid that could increase the armored sea fern's strength to diamond. However, Lin Yuan happened to have a fey that was very suitable for Warren's other willpower rune, the blue-ringed sea octopus. The other willpower rune that Warren had comprehended was the water poison willpower rune. The blue-ringed sea octopus was a small aquatic fey that attacked and controlled with poison. Moreover, the 100 Questions Beast Legion happened to have the spirit fluid that could increase the bronze/legend blue-ringed sea octopus to diamond. Even if there were really the diamond soft-biting sharks that Warren was worried about. The diamond/fantasy breed blue-ringed sea octopus could also easily kill them with poison. After clearing the soften-biting sharks and obtaining fresh water, the sailors' lives could be saved. After clearing the sea turtle carcasses that were embedded in the engine room, the ship could continue sailing, and everyone on the ship could escape. In a while, when you wake up, there will be a few more things in your hands. You have to ensure that the other sailors don't know about these things. Otherwise, if someone has any improper thoughts, they might want your life. After you get these things, you will naturally know how to clear the soften-biting sharks. After speaking, Lin Yuan asked Wen Yu to use the Celestial Council's functional star spirit chair to pass the bronze X/legend blue ringed sea octopus to Diamond. Together with the 4 bottles of spirit fluid that had helped the blue ringed sea octopus evolve to Diamond, they were all passed to Warren. During this process, Lin Yuan consumed some fragmented and unorthodox water laws. With the vast sea world, those fragmented and unorthodox water laws would only affect Princess Luo Kun's seawater permeability. Chapter 1488. After consuming the fragmented water element laws, Princess Luo Kun dived into the deep blue ocean. They could already clearly see the scene of a giant whale with large wings wantonly cheering under the sea. After dealing with Warren's problem, more than 30 minutes had passed. The Celestial Body Council had come to an end. Warren chatted with Yin Lin, Bei Su, and Tally for a while. After Yin Lin, Bei Su, and Tally got to know Warren, the Celestial Body Council officially came to an end. Warren, who had fallen asleep on the ship's watchtower, opened his eyes the moment he left the Celestial Body Council. As soon as he opened his eyes, he saw a fiery red sun rising from the surface of the sea. The sun rose from the sea, and the sky was bright. The last trace of darkness was also completely dispelled by the light of the sun wheel. Warren had been a navigator for decades, and he could see the sun rising from the sea almost every day. However, for the first time, Warren realized that the sunrise from the sea could be so beautiful. Then, Warren came back to his senses and remembered that he had just joined an organization called the Celestial Body Council. Although Warren knew that it was not a dream, he was still afraid that it was just his imagination due to thirst. At this moment, Warren realized that there was a strangely shaped ring beside his hand. The ring was embedded with a blue crystal. The blue crystal was polished into the shape of an octopus, and it looked very cute. Warren was sure that he had never seen this ring before. Based on the workmanship of the ring, Warren was sure that it was definitely not left behind by another sailor. Warren thought of the figure surrounded by laws and willpower, and what he had said to him. "I have prepared something for you. After you get it, you will know what to do." Warren thought to himself. Could it be that this ring is a piece of spatial equipment? Warren tried to touch the ring with his mind power, and soon discovered that there was a huge space inside the ring. The space was so big that it could directly store the Warren under his feet. As he continued to explore the space inside the ring, Warren found 4 bottles of spirit liquid and a basin in the corner of the space. There was a palm-sized octopus in the basin, stretching its tentacles. Moreover, the octopus was changing its body color from time to time. The bright blue spots on the octopus's body were enough to prove that this little octopus was extremely poisonous. Warren hurriedly summoned the basin and the 4 bottles of spiritual liquid from the space ring. He looked at the 4 bottles of spirit liquid and the octopus fey in the basin. Warren immediately understood what Lin Yuan meant. Immediately after, Warren checked the octopus fey and the 4 bottles of spirit fluid in the basin. Warren wasn't a creation master, so he couldn't find anything. However, as a navigator, Warren still had the foresight that he should have. Warren hadn't found anything when he had probed this octopus fey in the spatial ring just now. Now that he was closer to take a closer look, Warren immediately saw that this octopus fey was actually a bronze/legend existence. This discovery made Warren's body tremble violently. Warren did not know how to nurture a bronze/legend fey. However, Warren knew very well what a bronze/legend fey meant. At that moment, Warren didn't dare to imagine how noble the figure sitting on the golden seat in the Heavenly Body Council was. He could actually casually take out a bronze/legend fey and give it to him. It was just to help him escape this calamity. Moreover, this octopus Fey relied on poison to attack, which was very compatible with the water poison willpower rune that he had comprehended. In other words, after he contracted this octopus Fey, he could immediately fuse the willpower rune with it. Wasn't this the same as saying that he had contracted a bronze/fantasy breed Fey? He had made a huge profit. As for the other 4 bottles of spirit fluid, even if Warren had foresight, he really couldn't see what they were. Even though Warren had foresight, he really couldn't see what they were. However, the crystal bottles that contained the 4 bottles of spirit fluid were marked with 4 numbers from 1 to 4. These 4 numbers let Warren know the order in which these 4 bottles of spirit fluid should be used. After understanding the order in which the spirit fluid should be used, Warren reached out his hand. He carefully signed a contract with the little octopus in the basin. This octopus might look very cute, but Warren was used to seeing marine fays. He could tell at a glance that this little octopus had extraordinary poison. Before the contract was completed, this octopus poison would also have an effect on Warren. The poisons of poison-type fays were never reasonable. There were plenty of contractors in the Storm Federation who contracted poison-type fays but were accidentally injured by poison-type fays and lost their lives before the contract. Once Warren contracted the blue-ringed sea octopus, he wouldn't be afraid of its poison anymore. After the contract, Warren could feel that the blue-ringed sea octopus in the basin was very attached to him. Warren was stunned for a moment. Warren, who had only contracted a marine plant fae, had never experienced the joy of spiritual communication with a fae. Warren used his palm to lift the blue-ringed sea octopus out of the basin. The blue-ringed sea octopus obediently used its tentacles to grab Warren's fingers and interact with him affectionately. After looking at the time, Warren realized that it was soon time for the sailors to wake up. Warren quickly summoned the water poison willpower rune in his spiritual spatial zone and welcomed the cute blue-ringed sea octopus in his hand. Soon enough, the blue-ringed sea octopus fused with the water poison willpower rune and became a bronze/fantasy breed fae. Warren looked at the bronze X/fantasy eye blue-ringed sea octopus and opened the 4 bottles of spirit fluid and fed them to the blue-ringed sea octopus. When the blue-ringed sea octopus drank the first bottle of spirit fluid, its body didn't grow bigger. However, the blue halo on its body became brighter. This meant that the blue-ringed sea octopus poison had been enhanced. But when Warren fed the second bottle of spirit fluid, a sudden change occurred. The palm-sized blue-ringed sea octopus suddenly turned into a giant creature that was about 15 meters tall. Its 8 tentacles were extended, and each of them was 25 meters long. Warren was flabbergasted as he thought that the fae that Lin Yuan had given him was so awesome. However, if Lin Yuan was here and saw this blue-ringed sea octopus that had just been promoted to gold, he would definitely sigh at Warren's luck. There were many legends about octopus fays. In prehistoric atavism, they could awaken the giant octopus bloodline. Octopus fays that awakened the giant octopus bloodline often had the possibility of attacking that indescribable bloodline. Gu Lang's great old-time squid had been a scarlet giant winged squid before awakening that indescribable bloodline. Now, Warren's blue-ringed sea octopus had unexpectedly awakened the prehistoric giant octopus bloodline. It already had the possibility of attacking that indescribable bloodline. Chapter 1489. If it wasn't for the blue-ringed sea octopus still communicating with Warren intimately and putting its tentacles on Warren's body and tickling his waist, Warren might not be able to endure it and run to the cabin to hide. Warren might be a little apprehensive when he saw the massive blue-ringed sea octopus, but he was also very happy. The saw-toothed bite shark had a quick hunting instinct. Previously, Warren was afraid that even if the blue-ringed sea octopus reached Diamond and used poison-type attacks, it would still be hard to kill the Diamond saw-toothed bite shark within 3 seconds. This made the petite blue-ringed sea octopus very likely to be swallowed by the saw-toothed bite shark. Even if the blue-ringed sea octopus was lucky enough to not be bitten by the saw-toothed bite shark and only be swallowed into its stomach, it was still very likely to kill the blue-ringed sea octopus. Even if it did not kill the blue-ringed sea octopus, it was destined to be controlled. The belly of the diamond saw-toothed bite shark was not a comfortable place to rest. The saw-toothed bite shark had a large number of sea turtle feis in its diet. It could even digest a sea turtle's shell, which was enough to show how corrosive the saw-toothed bite shark's stomach was. Even if the strong acid did not corrode the blue-ringed sea octopus's body, the blue-ringed sea octopus could not rely on its poison to break out of the saw-toothed bite shark's body. However, Warren was no longer worried. Even if the massive blue-ringed sea octopus was bitten by the diamond saw-toothed bite shark, it would only injure its tentacles. Only the tentacles would be injured, and their lives would not be affected. But soon, Warren realized that he was wrong again. After the third bottle of spirit fluid, the massive blue-ringed sea octopus expanded again. It grew from a 15-meter-tall mass to a 35-meter-tall mass. Its 8 tentacles could reach 80 meters in length. What surprised Warren even more was that the 8 tentacles were like the roots of a plant. Each of them had a dozen or so tiny tentacles growing out of them. Of course, this tiny referred to the blue-ringed sea octopus's 8 main tentacles. Even the shortest tentacles could reach 20 meters in length. It was not impossible for the longer ones to reach 30 meters. At this moment, the halo on the platinum blue ocean octopus was so bright that it hurt Warren's eyes. Warren swallowed his saliva as he fed the last bottle of spirit liquid in his hand. The blue-ringed sea octopus drank the last bottle of elixir. Immediately after, Warren felt his feet sink in, and the deck made a sour sizzling sound. The body of the blue-ringed ocean octopus had completely blocked Warren's line of sight. The deck of the ship that was 150 meters long simply couldn't accommodate the blue-ringed giant octopus that had undergone another mutation. The blue-ringed giant octopus lay on the hull, half of its body already submerged in the sea. According to Warren's estimation, the giant octopus was at least 80 meters tall. Every main tentacle was nearly 300 meters long when stretched out. The main tentacles were clustered tentacles that looked like roots, and the shortest ones could reach up to 50 meters. It was long enough to reach 100 meters. Its body length was already comparable to a small cetacean fei. The diamond/fantasy blue-ringed giant octopus didn't just become larger. Warren saw that the main tentacles and the auxiliary tentacles of the giant octopus had dark blue thorns that were about half a meter long. These spikes were like the fangs of a wild boar. Warren found it hard to imagine that the blue-ringed giant octopus would swing these half-meter-long spikes at the enemy. What kind of enemy could withstand such a blow? If the tentacles went down, these spikes could blast a big hole in the enemy's body. Moreover, the color of these blue spikes was the same as the blue halo on the blue-ringed giant octopus's body. Clearly, these blue spikes were poisonous. The blue-ringed giant octopus, which had just advanced to Diamond X/Fantasy I, was either extremely hungry or had a very brutal nature. As soon as it entered the sea, it attacked the sawfin bite sharks in the sea. In addition, the sawfin bite sharks had the instinct to hunt quickly. The sawfin bite sharks that had followed the ship for a long time had a subconscious understanding. When the ship was besieged to a certain extent, there would always be food falling from the sky. This was a memory engraved in the genes of the sawfin bite sharks and the Storm Federation's ship for many years. But now, such a memory had harmed this group of sawfin bite sharks. Because it was not a thirsty sailor who went into the water, but a blue-ringed giant octopus whose bloodline was evolving in an indescribable direction. The blue halo on the blue-ringed giant octopus's body suddenly lit up, turning the seawater around it into a gorgeous peacock blue. The sawfin bite sharks that swarmed over were instantly paralyzed the moment they came into contact with the poison-soaked seawater. Then the blue-ringed giant octopus waved its tentacles and pierced these poisoned and paralyzed sawfin bite sharks one by one like skewers. After hunting the sawfin bite sharks like this for a while, the blue-ringed giant octopus felt bored. The blue-ringed giant octopus simply withdrew its poison and spread its tentacles, like a ball of net, facing the sawfin bite sharks. The blue-ringed giant octopus waved its main tentacles and subordinate tentacles, wantonly harvesting the lives of every sawfin bite shark. Warren felt the blue-ringed giant octopus's joy while looking at the sea red with the blood of the sawfin bite sharks in horror. This massacre had almost annihilated hundreds of sawfin bite sharks. Under the triple suppression of the blue-ringed giant octopus's size, grade, and poison, the diamond sophin-bite sharks could not do anything. The sea breeze blew away the smell of blood on the surface of the sea. At that moment, the sailors, who had just felt the hull sinking and rising, all ran to the deck. They had personally witnessed the last battle of this massacre. The little monkey, who had always been quick-witted and was the most receptive to new things, was stunned for a full 2 minutes before asking Warren, "Big brother Warren, are we going to be eaten by this giant octopus?" The giant octopus in front of them had always been lively and was the most receptive to new things. Although the giant octopus in front of them was completely submerged in the water, the little monkey was sure that this giant octopus had the ability to overturn this 150-meter-long giant ship. The little monkey, who had sensed death, turned around and wanted to run into the cabin. However, before it could run a few steps, Warren grabbed its collar. Warren did not expect the little monkey to think that this blue-ringed giant octopus was another monster that was preparing to attack the ship. Warren did not immediately explain to the little monkey that the blue-ringed giant octopus was a fey that he had accidentally obtained. Instead, he asked the little monkey, "Little monkey, why are you in such a hurry to go to the cabin?" The little monkey did not hide anything. "I'm going to prepare some sophin-bite shark meat. Before I die, I want my brothers to die with a full stomach." Warren glanced at the little monkey's arm and said, "Add some more of your blood?" Chapter 1490. The little monkey's eyes reddened when it heard Warren's words. If its blood could help Warren and the crew survive, the little monkey was willing to give up its life. However, the little monkey could not do that. The most he could do was to mix his blood with the shark jerky so that his shipmates wouldn't have a sore throat when they ate the shark jerky. However, the little monkey obviously could not say these words to Warren. Once it said these words to Warren, the other shipmates would know. The other shipmates would not be able to eat the shark jerky that it had prepared. Just when the little monkey felt that its secret had been discovered and did not know what to do, the little monkey felt its head sink. Warren's wide and rough palm gently rubbed the little monkey's curly hair. Warren did not say anything to the little monkey. He just looked at it deeply. Then, Warren changed the topic and shouted at the sea. "Blue Ring, use your tentacles to help clean up the turtle shell in the engine room at the bottom of the ship. Then, brothers, we'll get some water to boil." Warren's words brought the sailors, including the little monkey, back to their senses. Then, there was a burst of loud cheers on the deck. The Warren, which had survived the disaster, carried the sailors and Warren's joy, turned around and sailed to the port of the Storm Federation's Cold Dragon City's Doro district. When Yu's sacred source life form, the Celestial Parliament, had been upgraded to 3-star. In addition, when Yu's mental power had improved a lot compared to before. The Celestial Parliament had lasted for more than 40 minutes. When Yu still did not feel dizzy and her spiritual energy was exhausted like before. After leaving the Celestial Parliament, Lin Yuan looked at Wen Yu beside him. He recalled what he had learned about the blissful sea tribe in Zhou Jessen's store. Although Lin Yuan had mentioned to Wen Yu about establishing an information channel, he had not had the time to carry it out. Now, Lin Yuan decided to establish an intelligence department as Sky City's top priority. "Wen Yu, do you have any plans for the intelligence department?" Wen Yu replied with a serious expression. "Young master, our Sky City has never had our own intelligence department before. If we want to establish an intelligence department, we must start from scratch and build it bit by bit. We cannot rely on the intelligence relationship of any force. We need to ensure that everyone in the intelligence department is absolutely loyal. This is the only way to ensure the accuracy of the information we have. As for concealment, when the time comes, the information will be transmitted using the paper crane pact, so there's no need to worry at all. When I'm selecting people, I'll personally use the source paper's exclusive skill, reality paper, to check their loyalty." Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan knew that Wen Yu had a clear plan for establishing the Sky City's intelligence department. Suddenly, Lin Yuan thought of Qin Luan, who was training with Listen. Qin Luan awakened the Extreme Night Jade Sky Scorpion beast mark and contracted another Extreme Night Jade Sky Scorpion. He was a natural-born assassin who excelled in covert operations and was very suitable to work in the intelligence department. On this trip to Indigo Azure City, Qin Luan had followed Listen and seen the city. For now, it would be better to send Qin Luan to Wen Yu's side. On one hand, it would allow Wen Yu to train Qin Luan. On the other hand, Wen Yu would have an additional helper when she established the intelligence department. The number of white-clothed followers in Sky City was increasing. After those king-class experts became white-clothed followers, none of them revealed their identities to the outside world. It could be said that the concept of white-clothed followers had yet to spread in the main world. Due to the different contracted phase, these white-clothed followers each had their own areas of expertise. When you could choose king-class experts suitable for working in the intelligence department from among these white-clothed followers to build the framework of the intelligence department. When the time comes, communicate with Big Brother Lu to transfer some of the white-clothed followers. This will save you a lot of effort when it comes to recruiting manpower. Upon hearing that, Wen Yu revealed a faint smile on her face. She said softly, "Young master, with the source paper's faceless paper and the exclusive skill, reality paper, it's actually not difficult to establish an intelligence department, but it's a little cumbersome. Don't worry, young master. In less than half a year, I'll be able to complete the Sky City's intelligence department. We'll be able to immediately grasp any news from the major factions. With the faceless paper, I can make all the intelligence workers have a specific face. Even if spies from other factions really sneak in, it'll be completely useless." After chatting with Lin Yuan for a while about the establishment of the Sky City's intelligence department, Wen Yu returned to her room. She was ready to log into Star Web and go to manage Sky City's Star Web private faction territory as usual. Then, Wen Yu had to control the source paper on a large scale to produce the faceless paper. In addition, Wen Yu had to increase her strength and design spirit chi clothing. These things added up had already taken up Wen Yu's time. Lin Yuan also had to return to the Spirit Lock spatial zone to continue working. The orders from Cloud Pool City and Yuzhong City made Lin Yuan have to work for 2 more hours every day. Apart from working hard, Lin Yuan only had to wait for 3 days to use the faceless paper to disguise himself. He just had to follow the Creation Master team to the Whale Ocean Trading's old mansion. For Lin Yuan, Wen Yu, Lu Jia, and the others, everything was as usual. However, for most of the spirit chi professionals and ordinary people on Star Web and in the real world, the entire world had changed. The establishment of the Warm Sun Fund in the Xia region had indeed set off a huge wave on Star Web. However, this wave had not surged much before it was overshadowed by the news of the opening of the Abyss World. The Radiance Federation was connected to the Abyss World, and all 32 major cities had built mirror cities in the Abyss World. The factions of each major city needed to establish faction territories in the Abyss World's mirror cities. This caused the entire Radiance Federation's Creation Master resources to be scarce, causing the prices of metals, spiritual materials, ice-type phase, and other resources to skyrocket. The prices of fire-type spiritual materials and exceptional flames had dropped significantly. The changes and turbulence in the market affected the revenue of countless factions. However, such changes could not be avoided because this was the mainstream choice of the era. At that moment, Listen, Endless Summer, and the others returned to the royal capital from Indigo Azure City. After returning to the royal capital, Endless Summer immediately returned to the Return from Faraway Manor. Listen originally wanted to return to the Return from Faraway Manor immediately, but the royal capital was the first to divide the territory in the Abyss World. As a faction in the royal capital, the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce had to choose whether to establish a faction in the Abyss World or the royal capital's mirror cities. If they wanted to build, the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce had to pay a certain deposit and bear the cost of building the faction territory buildings. Chapter 1491. The Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce was no longer what it used to be. A few months ago, the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce was not even a rising faction. Later, it managed luxury resources and barely squeezed into the rising faction industry. However, just a few days ago, the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce took over all the resources of the Jing family, a top veteran faction. The Jing family's main functions overlapped with the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's. The Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce could now be considered a top veteran faction. Although the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce was in the royal capital and had not changed its address, it was still in the original Xiaobai house. However, in the Abyss World's mirror image royal capital, the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce could already divide a commercial territory of about 10,000 square meters. The royal capital's construction department had already urged Listen several times. Listen had Lin Yuan's back and could have whatever relationship he wanted. However, he still liked to do things according to the rules because he knew that Lin Yuan was also a person who liked to do things according to the rules. At dinner time, Listen hurried back to the return from Faraway Manor. Listen's return to Endless Summer made the return from Faraway Manor lively. Lin Yuan specially called Master Hong Shen, Zhang Xiaobai, Lu Pinru, Tan Ran, and Xianing to the manor for a meal. After dinner, Lin Yuan came to Listen's side and said softly, "Young master, I've done what I should do on this trip to Indigo Azure City." "Young master, I've done what I should do on this trip to Indigo Azure City. Everything that needs to be done has been done." Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan nodded. He was not prepared to ask how Listen had dealt with the Jing family. Even though Lin Yuan did not want to ask, Listen had already taken the lead to report to Lin Yuan. Since the Jing family's main function is luxury resources, they have raised a total of nearly 4,000 spirit craftsmen over the years. Among these spirit craftsmen, there are 7 Class 4 spirit craftsmen and more than 200 Class 3 spirit craftsmen. Among the remaining 3,700 spirit craftsmen, Class 2 spirit craftsmen account for the majority. In total, the Jing family's spirit craftsman resources are more than 6 times that of the Heavenly Craft Pavilion. After the Jing family fell, Jing Kaiyan immediately controlled these spirit craftsmen and did not let them leave the Jing family. When I went over, I took over all these spirit craftsmen. As we won these spirit craftsmen through the Blood Oath Extreme Duel, most of these spirit craftsmen subconsciously have a deep hostility towards Sky City. Thus, I feel that these spirit craftsmen can't be used at all. They can only be used to process luxury items. With the labor of these spirit craftsmen, the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's transaction scale can quickly rise to another level. With those 7 Class 4 spirit craftsmen and the rare spiritual materials provided by Young Master, the Listening Heron Auction House will definitely be able to build on its original foundation and build its reputation. When Lin Yuan heard that, he didn't comment. Zheng Kaiyan had already informed Lin Yuan about the thousands of spirit craftsmen in the Jing family. Since Lin Yuan was lacking spirit craftsmen on his side, he did not even have the intention to attack the Jing family's thousands of spirit craftsmen. It was because these spirit craftsmen could not be loyal to Sky City. Now that Listen had taken over these thousands of spirit craftsmen and arranged suitable jobs for them, it could be considered making the best use of them. After explaining the Jing family's situation, Listen changed the topic and spoke softly to Lin Yuan. "Young master, Jing Kaiyan is very talented. After I took over the Jing family's luxury resources, I left the shallow sea resources of Indigo Azure City to Jing Kaiyan. I'm going to let Jing Kaiyan develop the shallow sea resources of Indigo Azure City. Indigo Azure City's shallow sea resources are a huge treasure trove. How it develops in the end will depend on Jing Kaiyan's own abilities." Upon hearing Listen's words, Lin Yuan knew that Listen had let go of his hatred for the Jing family. Lin Yuan did not reply to Listen. The Jing family led by Jing Kaiyan could be considered a property of Sky City. Everything Jing Kaiyan did was to make money for Sky City. It would be good to let Jing Kaiyan develop Indigo Azure City's coastal sea resources. If Jing Kaiyan had the ability to develop Indigo Azure City's shallow coastal sea resources, Lin Yuan didn't mind pointing out a bright path for Jing Kaiyan to follow Gao Feng. Nurture aquatic fays that were suitable to be raised in the nearshore shallow sea for Gao Feng. Although Lin Yuan did not go out or train in the abyss in the past few days, he had not gone out. However, he was still very interested in the situation in the abyss. Lin Yuan asked Listen. "Listen, what do you think has changed the most in the Federation with the opening of the abyss world?" Upon hearing that, Listen was slightly startled. After careful consideration, Listen answered Lin Yuan's question. Young master, ever since I heard about the opening of the Class 6 Abyss Dimensional Rift, I have been paying attention to the situation in the Abyss world. According to my own understanding, the price of metal spiritual materials suitable for the construction of cities in the Abyss world is generally 4 times higher than before. The price of ice-type phase that can lower the temperature and change the environment has increased by more than 15 times. The price of heat-resistant plant species phase has also increased by at least 3 times. Apart from that, the biggest change in price is in luxury resources. Currently, the price of luxury resources has doubled, but I think this is just the beginning. I predict that the price of luxury resources will increase at an extremely high rate. In the end, it may rise to more than 4 times the original price. When talking about the increase in the value of luxury resources, Listen's tone was full of excitement. It could be said that the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce was standing at the vanguard of the change of the times. It wouldn't be long before Listen had the confidence to bring the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce to break through the threshold of a top faction. Upon hearing Listen's answer, Lin Yuan sighed in his heart. The price of metals, spiritual materials, and ice-type phase had risen because the construction of the Abyss World cities required a lot of these things. This would cause adventurer teams to choose underground dimensional rifts when exploring dimensional rifts. This was because only by exploring underground dimensional rifts and obtaining metals and spiritual materials could they maximize their profits. Low-class creation masters would spend a lot of energy and time to nurture ice-type phase. The concentration of creation masters' resources on ice-type phase would lead to a shortage of creation masters' resources on other phase. As a result, the overall price of phase would increase. Spiritual materials were produced from phase, and the increase in the price of phase would inevitably lead to the increase in the price of spiritual materials. It was unknown how many people would have a hard time because of this change. The farming garden was Radiance's granary and stored unpredictable resources. In a change of the times, many speculators were bound to appear. By hoarding metals, spiritual materials, and ice-type phase, they would inflate the price and profit. However, Lin Yuan believed that Tian Feng, who was overseeing the farming garden, would soon take action. As long as the farming garden opened its warehouse and poured supplies into the market, the prices of all spiritual materials, phase, and metals in Radiance's market would immediately return to the original level. Chapter 1492. However, the plantation would release these resources that ordinary people and spirit chi professionals consumed daily. It would not release luxury resources because of the rise in the price of luxury resources. This was because metal spiritual materials, ice-type phase, and the like were the daily consumption of ordinary people and spirit chi professionals, which involved the livelihood of the Radiance sect. On the other hand, luxury resources had nothing to do with the Radiance sect's livelihood. The price of luxury resources was so high because the major factions had hyped it up for the sake of face. Therefore, after the prices of other resources stabilized, the price of luxury resources would soar. After all, when the major factions established territories in the mirror world, they would inevitably have to buy a few sets of luxury items. This would undoubtedly drive the prosperity of the luxury goods market. In addition, after those speculators found that there was no place to speculate in the ordinary spiritual material market, they would turn their attention to luxury resources. Lin Yuan was waiting to see how Listen would capture this koi given by the times. Listen would hold this koi given by the times and transform into a dragon. During these 2 days, Lin Yuan did not receive any news from Bupa. As the saying went, no news was the best news. It seemed that Bupa had the talent of a creation master. Bupa should have become a creation master and gotten rid of the predicament. In order to better understand the Radiance sect's current situation, Lin Yuan worked hard. At night, he specially logged onto Star Web and checked the forums and posts. In these Star Web forums and post bars, Lin Yuan found many posts reflecting the problem of the skyrocketing price of spiritual ingredients. Back to the past, is there a mistake? Yesterday, I only bought the ice crystal grass for $600 Federation. Why did the price of the ice crystal grass rise to 8,000 Federation dollars when I went to buy it today? With 8,000 Federation dollars, why would I still buy normal ice crystal grass? I can even buy bronze ice crystal grass with a bad exclusive skill. Upon seeing the post posted by Back to the Past, Lin Yuan knew that this netizen called Back to the Past did not understand the specific situation. It was reasonable for the ice crystal grass's price to soar, and it would only be higher in the future. However, this price increase of more than 10 times still scared Lin Yuan. Those spirit chi professionals who had affinity with ice-type fays were probably feeling a sense of despair. Even if these fey professionals had an affinity with ice-type fays and were rather wealthy, they wouldn't be able to do so. Even if the price of ice-type fays increased by more than 10 times, they could still afford to buy ice-type fays. However, the price of the ice-type spirit materials needed to nurture ice-type spirit items would also increase by a dozen times. It could be said that nurturing an ice-type fey was equivalent to nurturing over 10 other fays. As for when the price increase would stop, it wasn't something that could be easily changed by a single person or force. Even if Lin Yuan scattered all of Sky City's wealth, he would still be helpless against this market problem that had occurred due to the change of the times. Pouring the wealth of Sky City into the market was like pouring a cup of water into a lake. Lin Yuan continued to check other posts. Shadow of the Cloud Summit, what the hell? My mansion's foundation is already laid, and I have hired the construction team. The materials were originally quoted at 120,000 radiance dollars. How did it become 960,000 radiance dollars in just one day? How am I going to build the mansion now? Chunhua, I'm crying. Why are all the creation masters so busy now? Even if I spend money, I still can't get a queue. Why have the creation masters that I worked with before all gone to the Whale Ocean to trade? Is there anyone who understands the situation? Tell me, why did the Whale Ocean trade look for so many creation masters? Lin Yuan raised his brows slightly. 32 major cities had built mirror cities in the Abyss world. It was reasonable for creation masters to have a shortage of resources. Even if His Majesty Tian Feng released a large amount of resources, it would still only allow the prices of fays, metals, and spiritual materials to return to the original price. It would not be able to effectively allocate creation masters' resources. Even if the Radiance Federation did not open 6 abyss-dimensional rifts, the creation masters' resources would not be enough. Now, the Radiance Federation was building mirror cities in the Abyss world. It was the same as cutting the already scarce creation masters' resources by half. It seemed that the Radiance Federation's creation masters' resources would definitely increase in the future. The status of creation masters would also increase with the shortage of creation masters' resources. By then, the status of Class 5 spirit craftsmen and Class 5 weavers would probably be among the pinnacle lifestyles. It was only comparable to the status of creation masters below Class 4. Shadow of the Cloud Summit's post inexplicably linked the shortage of creation masters' resources to the pinnacle faction, the Whale Ocean trade. With each refresh, the number of likes and comments on Shadow of the Cloud Summit's post increased exponentially. In less than 5 minutes, Lin Yuan found that Shadow of the Cloud Summit's post had become a hot topic on the Star Web Forum's homepage. The Whale Ocean trade had gathered so many creation masters to take advantage of the chaos. The sudden opening of the Abyss world was equivalent to shining a beam of light on the people who were taking advantage of the chaos. It could be said that the Whale Ocean trade had no way out. Even if the Whale Ocean trade had many concerns and wanted to stop this behavior, there was no chance at all. Afterward, the Whale Ocean trade was bound to be hammered by the High Lords. Even if the Whale Ocean trade did not do anything this time, the Spirit Guard's investigation would surface all kinds of previous behavior. Therefore, the Whale Ocean trade's only way out was to fight for an opportunity in desperation. What Lin Yuan could not understand was why the Whale Ocean trade dared to do this. Could they really retreat unscathed after doing this? Lin Yuan continued to look at the posts on Star Web and found that there were more and more posts about prices. It could be said that Radiance was currently at a stage of extreme repression. Just as Lin Yuan understood the current situation and was about to log out of Star Web, Gung Yuan issued a statement to all Star Web netizens through Star Web officials with thunderous momentum. Farming. Due to the opening of the Abyss world, the big cities need to build mirror cities in the Abyss world. In addition, the Abyss world is unbearably hot, causing the prices of many phase and spiritual ingredients in the market to increase greatly. The farming yuan has decided to release 600 million tons of bronze, 100 million tons of silver, 2,000 trillion tons of gold, 10 billion tons of platinum, and 500 million tons of diamond metals every month. There will be 110 trillion ice-type phase of all grades. The other spiritual ingredients and phase that are affected will be released by the farming yuan, allowing the market prices to return to their original state. From the moment this news is released, the farming yuan will regulate the prices of all phase and spiritual ingredients in the market. Within 72 hours, Radiance's phase and spiritual ingredients will return to their original prices. If there is a big city or region that has not regulated the prices of phase and spiritual ingredients, you are welcome to report it to the farming yuan through Star Web officials. Chapter 1493. Lin Yuan was shocked when he saw this message. Then, a warm current rose from Lin Yuan's heart and cleansed his whole body. What was the magnanimity? What was the ability of magnanimity? Lin Yuan had long thought that Gung Yuan would intervene in the market price. However, he did not expect that Gung Yuan would act so quickly. Within 2 days of the incident, when public opinion had just surged on Star Web, Gung Yuan had already made the final decision, quelled this public opinion, and completely resolved the matter. At the same time, the resources released by Gung Yuan shocked Lin Yuan. 600 million tons of bronze metals, 100 million tons of silver metals, 200 billion tons of gold metals, 10 billion tons of platinum metals, and 500 million tons of diamond metals. What kind of concept was this? What kind of wealth was this? Even 100,000 Class 4 underground dimensional rifts would not be able to produce so many metals and spiritual ingredients. Moreover, the farming garden didn't release this many spiritual materials in total. Instead, she released so many every month. In addition to the metals, there were 110 trillion ice-type phase of all grades. It could almost change the Abyss world's climate within a certain range. Gung Yuan's action this time made Lin Yuan realize that his previous scale was a little small. Lin Yuan had thought of hoarding supplies before, but his hoarding of supplies only stopped at a few hundred soldier rations. He also planted a large number of production and economic plant phase in the swamp world. This method of hoarding supplies could ensure Sky City's self-sufficiency for hundreds of years. However, in the face of such a big change as the change of the times, Sky City's original method of hoarding supplies could not play any key role at all. Lin Yuan felt that it was time for him to expand his scope and broaden his horizons. This would allow Sky City to gather more and faster resources. Lu Jie's Dimensional Light Moth was now at Diamond X/Legend. The Dimensional Light Moth could easily open Class 3 to Class 4 dimensional rifts by gnawing on space. For factions without strength, Class 3 and Class 4 dimensional rifts were nightmares. However, for powerful factions, Class 3 and Class 4 dimensional rifts were treasure troves. The Dimensional Light Moth was the key to open the treasure trove. Lin Yuan did not have many people on hand. If he wanted to rely on the white-clothed followers, it was impossible to mine many dimensional rifts at the same time. However, Lin Yuan grasped the power of faith and had many apostles under him. These apostles would have large amounts of believers and believers in the future. At that time, each of Lin Yuan's apostles would be able to lead their own believers and believers. Multiple resource development teams were formed to collect resources from various Class 3 and Class 4 dimensional rifts. A few hundred stalks of soldier grain radish were obviously not enough. He planned to use the life-form still fire produced by the twin red pagoda's main flower to roast these military rations every day. The stems of the ice grain radish that had been split off quickly turned into lignification. Then, he split the military grain radish that had been split off. He also established a Fey breeding base in the swamp world. Only in this way could he truly use the resources of the swamp world to accumulate resources. Time flew, and 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. 2 days later, everything related to the people's livelihood in the Biyao Empire had returned to normal. However, the prices of luxury goods had already shown signs of soaring. The Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce received a large number of orders for custom-made luxury items. However, these orders were all rejected by Listen. Listen was not afraid of offending these forces that had placed orders with the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce because of his actions. The increase in the prices of luxury goods had little to do with spirit craftsmen. It was mainly because the raw materials used to make luxury goods were more expensive. Therefore, the forces that were rejected by Listen would only come back to the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce in the future. After all, the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce had the resources to make luxury goods. This was Listen's greatest trump card in this era. On a green mountain on the outskirts of Dragon Ascending City, there was a pagoda-like palace. This pagoda-like palace had a total of 33 floors. The corners of each floor were carved in the shape of wheat ears. This made the tower look exquisite, but at the same time, it gave people a very down-to-earth feeling. In addition to the wheat ear carvings at the corners of the pagoda, the body of the pagoda was engraved with all kinds of fruits that could be eaten. If a person saw this pagoda when they were hungry, they would probably immediately speed up the secretion of saliva. When they got closer, they saw a large piece of farmland around the pagoda. The farmland was full of the unique heavenly fragrance rice. Legend had it that eating 1 grain of heavenly fragrance rice could make one feel full for 10 days. In addition, it could increase the speed of spiritual power recovery within 10 days. However, all of Huiyao's majesties knew that the owner of the heavenly fragrance rice was a miser. Therefore, even Huiyao's majesties rarely had the opportunity to eat the heavenly fragrance rice. A slightly fat and stinky middle-aged man was waving a hoe and digging the furrows between the 2 bunches of heavenly fragrance rice. The wealthy-looking middle-aged man dug with all his might, making the furrows neat and tidy. It was as if he had used a ruler to measure it. At that moment, a young man walked over. Standing on the ground, the young man didn't dare to step on the furrows that the man had just dug. Chapter 1494. The youth could not understand Tian Feng's nonsense for a moment. Was he talking about the 2 city guards of Indigo Azure City and Raging Wave City or the Whale Ocean trade? Once the 2 city guard captains reported the situation, the matter would be over. However, if the Whale Ocean trade was reprimanded by Tian Feng, the spirit guards would definitely investigate. However, the Whale Ocean Trading Company had always kept a low profile over the years. Even if the spirit guards investigated, there should not be any major problems. There were still around 10 days before the spiritual ingredients and phase prices completely stabilized. During this period of time, he had to keep a close watch. Otherwise, he would definitely be reprimanded by Tian Feng again. When the youth reported back to work, a trace of doubt emerged in Tian Feng's mind. The opening of the Class 6 Abyss Dimensional Rift was a last-minute decision by all the eminences. Otherwise, according to normal circumstances, the Class 6 Abyss Dimensional Rift's opening would be arranged after the Radiance 100 sequence test. The Whale Ocean Trade definitely did not hire a large number of creation masters because of the news of the Abyss Dimensional Rift's opening. What exactly did the Whale Ocean Trade want to do with so many creation masters? Furthermore, the Imperial Court had restricted all the top factions and did not allow them to use their resources to wantonly affect the market. It would be fine if the Whale Ocean Trade only hired high-class creation masters. If a large number of low-class creation masters were hired by the Whale Ocean Trade, it would affect the economic system maintained by these low-class creation masters. Countless small chambers of commerce and star web stores would be on the verge of collapse because of these low-class creation masters being hired by the Whale Ocean Trade. Tian Feng had a trace of impulse to go to the Whale Ocean Trade to investigate the situation, but he quickly suppressed this impulse. As the eminence, Tian Feng had more important things to do during these 10 days. This was to maintain the stability of the Radiant Sex economic system. He did not want those ordinary people and spirit chi professionals to be affected by the changes of the times. Soon, It was the day when he signed up for the Whale Ocean Trade experiment as a Class 2 creation master. On this day, Lin Yuan woke up early. He wore an extremely simple gray spirit chi attire and looked out the window. It was a sunny day. However, the clouds in the sky were thick and dense, blocking the bright sunlight. However, under the radiance of the sun, these dense clouds would sooner or later evaporate into drifting clouds and be herded into the sky. As he looked at the thick clouds, Lin Yuan pondered. If his conjecture about the whale ocean trade was correct, then this matter was a huge matter. It was related to Hui Yao's Creation Master Foundation. After encountering Ji Feng and understanding his background and situation, it was hard for Lin Yuan not to speculate about the whale ocean trade's purpose of gathering creation masters. As a top-notch force formed from the three forces, the three forces should have a very close relationship with each other. Furthermore, the sea-sky lineage was the lineage that was in charge of the creation master resources. It was only right that the other two lineages would support it. But Wan Qi's bloodline had killed Hai Tian's bloodline. Even if there was a grudge, if the whale ocean trade wanted to develop, it was impossible for it to lack creation master resources. When Lin Yuan had gone to the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden's main mansion, he had heard Miao He mention it. The number of island whales controlled by the whale ocean trade was constantly increasing. This meant that after the creation masters of the sea and sky lineage perished, the myriad flags lineage had a massive amount of creation master resources. All of a sudden, Lin Yuan felt that he seemed to have grasped a point that he had never grasped before. Creation master resources? But what kind of creation master resources would require the lives of creation masters to be filled? Logically speaking, Lin Yuan should have told this matter to his master, the Moon Empress. Lin Yuan had not told her about this. Firstly, it was because she had been in seclusion recently. If Lin Yuan told Mystic Moon about this matter was of great importance, and Mystic Moon would definitely tell the Moon Empress. At that time, it would undoubtedly disturb the Moon Empress' seclusion. Once a pinnacle expert's seclusion was disturbed, it would be very difficult to enter seclusion again. On the other hand, this matter was Lin Yuan's conjecture based on the information he had obtained. If Lin Yuan was wrong, the Moon Empress would investigate with great fanfare. Instead, it would be a joke. Now that Lin Yuan was going to act on his own, he decided to give Mystic Moon a call before taking action. Lin Yuan was now the Moon Empress disciple, and any action he took was related to the Moon Empress reputation. If he told Mystic Moon in advance, Mystic Moon would be able to respond in time if something happened. Previously, Lin Yuan had used the power of faith to enhance Bai Yan, and Bai Yan's strength was already at the pinnacle of immortal realm. Recently, with the explosion of public opinion on Star Web, Lin Yuan's power of faith was nearly twice as powerful as before. With the enhancement of the power of faith, Bai Yan's strength would only be stronger than before. Lin Yuan did not think that there would be an expert stronger than the pinnacle of immortal realm Bai Yan in the whale ocean trade. However, nothing was absolute. As the saying went, a gentleman would not stand under a collapsing wall. If there was an eternal realm expert hidden in the whale ocean trade, Mystic Moon would be able to intervene. If he informed Mystic Moon in advance, she would be able to intervene. However, when Lin Yuan called Mystic Moon, she did not pick up the call even after the ringtone ended. This made Lin Yuan frown slightly. Previously, when Lin Yuan called Mystic Moon, there had never been such a situation. Every time, the ringtone would ring 3 times, and Mystic Moon would pick up the call. Lin Yuan did not wait for Mystic Moon to call him back. Instead, he gave her another call. When the second ringtone was about to end, Mystic Moon hurriedly picked up the phone. Her tone was apologetic. "Your Highness, I'm upgrading Star Web with the 2 eminences. I didn't bring my cell phone with me. I only knew that Your Highness had called me when my subordinates reported it to me." Mystic Moon knew Lin Yuan very well and knew that he had called her twice in a row. He must have encountered something urgent. Lin Yuan hurriedly asked when he heard that Mystic Moon was upgrading Star Web. "Uncle Mystic, how long do you need to upgrade Star Web?" Mystic Moon did not hide the truth. Your Highness, thanks to you, my sacred source lifeform star grade has broken through, and my strength has crossed the threshold. My sacred source lifeform and my main body's spiritual energy make up 1/3 of star web. My sacred source lifeform and my main body have both improved, and the star web's spiritual perception network needs to be upgraded. Since this year's Radiance 100 sequence selection will be held on star web, the two eminences and I should be able to upgrade star web 10 days before the Radiance 100 sequence selection. Chapter 1495. Lin Yuan frowned when he heard Mystic Moon's words. Improving star web was a huge matter that concerned the entire Radiance sect. This matter not only involved Xianyu, but also the two majesties. It was no small matter. However, Lin Yuan's situation was equally important. After much consideration, Lin Yuan told Mystic Moon about his conjecture. However, Lin Yuan's explanation was very superficial and did not go into as much detail as he did to Mystic Moon. Hearing this, Xianyu was shocked. He then held his breath and muttered to himself. Xianyu turned to look at the two majesties in the hall and said, Your Highness, the chief guard of the spirit guards, Night Leaning Moon, has been in the Radiant Moon Palace recently. I'll give Night Leaning Moon a call and ask her to cooperate with Little Highness and protect Little Highness in secret. This matter will be led by Little Highness. Night Leaning Moon will cooperate with Little Highness. Xianyu paused for a moment before continuing. Before the Moon Empress went into seclusion, she told young Lord to do whatever he wanted to do. The Moon Empress will always be guarding you from behind. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan hung up. He was waiting for the chief guard of the spirit guards, Night Leaning Moon, to contact him. The chief guard of the spirit guards, Night Leaning Moon, was Lu Jie's master and not considered an outsider. However, he did not want to involve Lu Jie in this matter. Lu Jie also wanted to fight for the Radiance envoy position. If the guess was wrong, the reputation of the people involved would be tarnished. During the Radiance 100 sequence selection, the damage to one's reputation wouldn't have any impact. However, in the selection of the Radiance envoys, any damage to one's reputation could result in the loss of many votes. Thus, he planned to take responsibility for this matter himself. In less than 5 minutes, his cell phone rang. He picked up his phone and saw that it was an unknown number. His phone rarely rang, and whenever it did, it would be someone he was familiar with. This strange call was most likely from Yi Qing. When Lin Yuan picked up the phone, he heard a hoarse and cold voice. Little Yuan, I'm Night Leaning Moon, a friend of your master. How do you need me to cooperate with you? Just let me know. I'll arrange it. Lin Yuan was slightly startled when he heard that. Lin Yuan wasn't startled because Night Leaning Moon had asked him to make the arrangements. After all, Xianyu had said that Night Leaning Moon was here to cooperate with him. Lin Yuan was stunned by Night Leaning Moon's introduction of himself. Logically speaking, Night Leaning Moon had no problem introducing herself as the chief guard of the spirit guards and Lu Jie's master. But Night Leaning Moon claimed to be his master's friend. This meant that his master, the Moon Empress, was extremely important in Night Leaning Moon's heart. However, he had heard from Mystic Moon that the Moon Empress rarely interacted with the spirit guards. Since Night Leaning Moon had said that she would fully cooperate with him, he would make arrangements according to his thoughts. Bureau Chief Yi, I will tell you my conjecture. After saying that, Lin Yuan told Night Leaning Moon his conjecture in detail, including what had happened to Ji Feng and the entire Ocean Sky lineage. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's description, Night Leaning Moon, who was on the other end of the phone, was silent for a long time before speaking. Even if the Whale Ocean Trade doesn't plan to do anything with over 10,000 Creation Masters' lives, just killing the Sea Sky clan, the #1 Creation Master race, is already a huge crime. Little Yuan, I'll dispatch 5,000 spirit guards to receive you outside the Whale Ocean Trading House after you move out. In addition, I will give you a Night Jade. If you are attacked, the Night Jade will form a barrier around you. After Yi Yu is destroyed, I will automatically teleport to Yi Yu's location. Infiltrate the old residence of the Whale Ocean Trading Company. You can explore boldly. There's no need to worry about your safety. Just as the whale ocean trade was gathering creation masters from 32 major cities in the name of experimentation, the creation masters were being recruited on a large scale. Night Leaning Moon had already received the news. Night Leaning Moon did not think that a top faction that had been in the Radiance Federation for decades would have any problems. However, Night Leaning Moon was still prepared to send 2 guard envoys to investigate. However, due to the conflict with the sea race, Night Leaning Moon had no choice but to send a large number of guard envoys and spirit guards to the coastal cities. This was to prevent the sea race from launching a sudden attack. As a result, there were not many people available in the imperial city of the spirit guards. Night Leaning Moon stayed in the Radiant Moon Palace and corrected the documents that were sent in from various places. The left administrators Wu Ming and the right administrator Yu Zhe were so busy that they couldn't free themselves. Night Leaning Moon was obviously busier than Wu Ming and Yu Zhe. In Night Leaning Moon's opinion, Lin Yuan's conjecture was just wishful thinking. However, Lin Yuan dared to investigate for Hui Yao's future and put himself in danger. Obviously, he already had the qualities to become a Radiance envoy. Night Leaning Moon had been so kind to Lin Yuan at first because of the Moon Empress and Lu Jie's relationship. That was why Night Leaning Moon loved the house and its crow. But now, Night Leaning Moon admired Lin Yuan from the bottom of her heart. Compared to his disciple, who only knew how to protect the Oath Keeper, Lin Yuan's vision was clearly much bigger. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan's face lit up. Lin Yuan was not afraid that his safety could not be guaranteed, but he was afraid that Bai Yan alone could not protect those 10,000 creation masters. Now that there were more than 5,000 spirit guards to provide support, once a conflict broke out, they would be killed. The spirit guards would immediately head over to receive the 10,000 creation masters. It was to ensure the safety of these creation masters. Lin Yuan expressed his gratitude. "Thank you, Chief Guard Yi." Night Leaning Moon said with a smile. "Little Yuan, you can just call me Auntie. You don't have to call me Chief Guard Yi in private, and you don't have to address me as Lord." After speaking, Night Leaning Moon hung up the phone. Immediately after, Lin Yuan felt a touch of darkness quietly appear under the blazing sun. This touch of darkness sneaked into his manner and finally escaped into his room, landing accurately in his palm. It turned into a square jade pendant without ornaments. This must be the night jade that Night Leaning Moon mentioned. Night Leaning Moon's technique of extracting the night from the sun and turning it into a jade. This allowed Lin Yuan to deeply understand the concept of the word Lord. It could be said that the method that Night Leaning Moon used had already exceeded Lin Yuan's previous understanding. Seeing that it was almost time, Lin Yuan prepared to go out. At that moment, Lin Yuan received the 3rd call in the morning. He picked up the phone, and it was still an unfamiliar number. However, this number was different from the unfamiliar number that Night Leaning Moon had called him previously. Lin Yuan subconsciously thought that this call was still from Night Leaning Moon. However, when he picked up the phone, Lin Yuan only heard a man's voice coming from the other end. "You're called Chu Yuan, right? I'm from the Whale Ocean Trade. There's still 1 more hour before the gathering time. I remind you not to be late. In addition, you don't need to bring any additional supplies. After arriving at the Whale Ocean Trade, the Whale Ocean Trade will provide you with everything. In addition, a few Pinnacle Class 4 creation masters of the Sea Sky lineage have the intention of accepting a few disciples. Therefore, Chu Yuan, you have to grasp this opportunity well and not waste it." Chapter 1496. Upon hearing the man's words, Lin Yuan was so angry that he almost laughed. The purpose of this call was that the Whale Ocean Trading hoped that everyone could come. Thus, they had specially sent an attendant to call to tempt the creation masters. The Sea Sky lineage's people were all dead, and only Ji Feng was left. The Whale Ocean Trading's people were making a big deal out of the dead people to let these creation masters calm down for a few days. They were still determined to go to the Whale Ocean Trading. There was no need for Lin Yuan to expose this attendant and deal with it. "I'll head to the registration point immediately." After saying that, Lin Yuan pretended to be excited and said a few words to the attendant. The attendant hurriedly hung up the phone. He was obviously in a hurry to inform the others. Lin Yuan did not ride Blackie in the royal capital. After all, it was too conspicuous. Lin Yuan, who had changed his appearance with the faceless paper, called to order a silver divine travel black swallow. Riding on the divine travel black swallow, Lin Yuan went all the way to the Whale Ocean Trading's registration point. Lin Yuan arrived at the registration point 40 minutes earlier than the agreed time. However, when Lin Yuan arrived at the registration point, he realized that it was already filled with creation masters. It could be said that the Whale Ocean Trading's registration point was the place with the highest concentration of creation masters in the entire royal capital. Lin Yuan found that these creation masters were all so excited that their faces were flushed. Some were looking forward to joining the Whale Ocean Trading, while others were looking forward to being chosen by the Sea Sky lineage's pinnacle Class 4 creation masters. They might even face some younger and more outstanding creation masters. These creation masters would even have a faint hostility toward each other. They obviously treated each other as competitors. Upon seeing this, Lin Yuan could not help but feel a little upset. At that moment, compared to discovering the Whale Ocean Trading secret, Lin Yuan hoped that everything was just his imagination. However, it was impossible to say that it was all Lin Yuan's imagination. The call from the Whale Ocean Trading's attendant in the morning was already enough to explain the problem to a large extent. Just as Lin Yuan was preparing to check the prices in the surrounding shops while he was waiting, Lin Yuan realized that most of the creation masters were looking at him wherever he looked. This made Lin Yuan a little stunned. Lin Yuan remembered that he had put on the faceless paper and had specially looked in the mirror before leaving. His spirit chi clothes were also very low-key and ordinary. What? Could it be that an ordinary person could attract attention? How could he look so ordinary? Why are you still staring at me? If you think I'm ugly, then most of the people here don't look much different from my ordinary face, right? Lin Yuan thought in his heart. However, he had always neglected something. The faceless paper could change one's appearance, but it could not change one's bone structure and temperament. The beauty of one's bones and temperament was in a mutually balanced relationship with one's appearance. A person with good looks is often less conspicuous than a person with average looks, and their bearing is less magnificent. Lin Yuan's appearance was now suppressed to the lowest point. Lin Yuan, who had a perfect bone appearance, was simply a large aura ejector. However, as a large aura jet, Lin Yuan did not know it at all. At that moment, an elder, who had been flattered by several middle-aged creation masters, walked toward Lin Yuan. He said straightforwardly, "Little brother, are you also here to participate in the Whale Ocean Trading Company's experiment?" Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan nodded with a smile. Upon seeing Lin Yuan's nod, the elder looked at Lin Yuan's chest. He noticed that Lin Yuan did not have a creation master crest on his chest, so he asked, "Little brother, you look young. You shouldn't be more than 18 years old, right? Little brother, are you a Class 1 creation master?" Lin Yuan's face focused on the side profile. With such a face shape, even if he was in his 30s or 40s, he would look like a youth in his 20s. As long as his skin did not look old, he would look like a youth in his 20s. It could be said that his face was young, and it had always been very vexing for Lin Yuan. In his original appearance, Lin Yuan, who was just over 18 years old, looked like a 16 or 17-year-old youth. Now that Lin Yuan was wearing the faceless paper, it only changed his facial features and did not change his bone structure. Therefore, he still looked young. Upon hearing the elder mention the Creation Master crest, Lin Yuan simply took out his Class 2 Creation Master crest and pinned it on the lapel on his left chest. The Creation Master crest could best show a Creation Master's identity. Given Lin Yuan's current age, if he did not wear the Creation Master crest on his chest, people would definitely ask questions. Of course, Lin Yuan did not take out the Class 2 Creation Master crest that the Moon Empress had given him. If there was a moon totem beside the Class 2 Creation Master crest on his chest right now, Jianghu would be able to see the moon totem. No matter how many schemes the Whale Ocean Trade had, no matter how desperate they were, they would still cancel their original plans. Upon seeing Lin Yuan wear the Class 2 Creation Master crest on his chest, the elder let out a soft gasp. The other Creation Masters in the surroundings also looked at Lin Yuan in surprise. After all, a Class 2 Creation Master who looked 16 or 17 years old was truly too rare. Most likely, only those veteran powers and top powers would be able to nurture such a talented junior. After a short moment of surprise, the elder exclaimed, "Heroes come from the young." When I became a Class 2 Creation Master back then, I was already over 30 years old. If I could become a Class 2 Creation Master at your age, this old man's Creation Master standard should be able to improve further. Through the Creation Master crest on the elder's chest, Lin Yuan understood that the elder was a Class 3 Creation Master. If he improved further, he would become a Class 4 Creation Master. Generally, if a Class 2 Creation Master before the age of 20 didn't have any accidents, they would basically be able to become a Class 4 Creation Master at the age of 80. The average age of a Radiance King Class expert was already close to 200 years old. For King Class experts, 80 years old was only the prime of their life. Zhongzhe and Gu Lang were already Pinnacle Class 3 Creation Masters. Through some special means, the two of them could concoct Class 4 spirit liquids in a very short period of time. However, Zhongzhe and Gu Lang did not choose to take the Class 4 Creation Master exam. It wasn't that Zhongzhe and Gu Lang did not want to, but the Class 4 Creation Master exam was no longer as simple as the Class 1 to Class 3 Creation Master exams. The Class 4 Creation Master exam would last for a week. During the week, the Class 4 Creation Master who participated in the Class 4 Creation Master exam would draw random exam questions based on the results. They would conduct 7 tests. It also meant that they would have to concoct at least 7 bottles of Class 4 spirit liquids. It was easy for Zhongzhe and Gu Lang to use special means to concoct a bottle of Class 4 spirit liquids. However, if they used special means, they would often overdraft themselves. If they overdraft too much, their roots would be damaged. Chapter 1497. Lin Yuan had participated in the All-Star match and was selected as a lucky spectator to challenge the Barbarian Snake Guild Club. He had already shown his face in the entire Radiance Federation. However, no one was able to match Lin Yuan's identity with the Moon Empress disciple. After the Radiance 100 sequence ended, Lin Yuan was confident that Black's limelight would suppress everyone who participated in the Radiance 100 sequence and become the topic of discussion on the star web. Black naturally needed an opponent after becoming the topic of discussion. If there wasn't an opponent, this topic wouldn't be able to be dragged and extended. Therefore, Lin Yuan planned to participate in the Class 3 and Class 4 Creation Master exams after the Radiance 100 sequence ended. He immediately went to participate in the Class 3 and Class 4 Creation Master exams and released the news that he had become a Class 4 Creation Master. This way, his two identities could compete with each other on the star web. Lin Yuan would also be able to harvest more power of faith. In fact, Lin Yuan's Creation Master abilities weren't strong, and he didn't rely on traditional Creation Master skills. Instead, he relied on his unique body and the Spirit Lock spatial zone. If it was in the past, Lin Yuan wouldn't even dare to participate in the Class 4 Creation Master exams. Even Class 3 Creation Master exams wouldn't dare to casually participate in them. It would be fine if he drew a test to enhance a bronze or silver Fae. If he drew a test to evolve a platinum Fae into a diamond Fae, it would be very easy for other Class 3 Creation Masters. Lin Yuan wouldn't be able to do it. However, Lin Yuan now had Genius, and Genius could easily handle the content of the Class 4 Creation Master exam. During the process of the exam, due to the special nature of the Creation Master's spirit fluid concoction, no one would supervise it. Lin Yuan might have used a special method, but who could say that Genius and the 100 Questions Beast Legion weren't his own strength? Lin Yuan pinned the Class 2 Creation Master crest on his clothes. Lin Yuan could clearly feel that there were plenty of Creation Masters looking at him with vigilance and faint rejection. It was obvious that they were treating him as a competitor. The old man who had just spoken to Lin Yuan was carefully observing him. According to the spirit chi clothes that Lin Yuan was wearing, the elder was certain that Lin Yuan, a talented Class 2 creation master, didn't have any special foundation. Those with foundation wouldn't choose to wear spirit chi clothes that were weaved with bronze sandworm silk. Young brother, there is a high chance that you will be favored by the Sea Sky lineage's leaders during this trade. I might even be accepted as a disciple by the Sea Sky lineage's pinnacle Class 4 creation master. The old man's words imperceptibly drew a lot of hatred for Lin Yuan. Of course, compared to jealousy, more creation masters envied Lin Yuan. There might be a huge difference in status between creation masters and other lifestyle class spirit chi professionals. In the small circle of creation masters, the difference in status was even greater. In just a few minutes, a pinnacle Class 4 creation master had taken a fancy to him and was praising him profusely. It was enough to prove his strength. This ordinary-looking youth might really catch the eye of a pinnacle Class 4 creation master from the Sea Sky lineage and be accepted as a disciple. At the thought of this, many of the 1- and 2-star creation masters took the initiative to greet Lin Yuan and build a relationship with him. Not far away, the attendants of the Whale Ocean Trade's 10,000 Banners branch were currently verifying the identities of the customers. Seeing that almost everyone had arrived, the attendants summoned a green elemental substance. The green elemental substance let out a shrill roar. In the end, the roar simulated a human voice. However, the roar simulated by the green elemental substance seemed a little sharp and hoarse. Everyone, get ready. A floating light feather crane will come to pick you up in 3 minutes and bring you to the old mansion. Lin Yuan used Morbius True Data to investigate the green elemental substance. After probing, Lin Yuan found that the green elemental substance was a source-type item source wind. However, this Platinum 3/Fantasy 2 source wind was really trash to nurture. Using modeled wind elements to nurture source wind was simply a waste of a good thing like source wind. However, using source wind to transmit a voice was much more effective than using a loudspeaker to shout. Upon hearing the attendants' words, the creation masters no longer chatted with each other. They all waited with burning eyes, hoping that this trip could give them a good future. Even if they could not be accepted as disciples by the Sea Sky lineage's Class 4 creation masters, it was also good to be able to join the Whale Ocean Trade. After all, it was much better to have a top faction as a backer than to fight alone. In any case, the top factions hired creation masters, and the creation masters only worked for the top factions. They would not be lacking in any remuneration. In fact, the remuneration was even better than taking on part-time jobs outside. In less than 3 minutes, Lin Yuan saw a row of huge crane shadows coming from the horizon. The floating light feather crane was a type of crane species Fey with an extremely powerful bloodline. Not only was it comfortable to ride on, but its speed was also the fastest among diamond flying type Feys. Only a top faction like the Whale Ocean Trade could easily send dozens of diamond floating light feather cranes to carry passengers. Before Gray had become a favored spirit, it had been a member of the feather crane species like the floating light feather crane. Just this alone was enough to see how precious the floating light feather crane was. The fact that the Whale Ocean Trade was willing to use the floating light feather crane to carry the creation masters to the old mansion made many creation masters smile. The floating light feather crane was enough to show the Whale Ocean Trade's deep sincerity. After boarding the floating light feather crane, Lin Yuan found that the attendants on the floating light feather crane's back had a very good attitude toward the creation masters. The people riding the floating light feather cranes looked at the creation masters with calm eyes. Lin Yuan could keenly sense a trace of mockery in those calm eyes. Upon seeing this scene, Lin Yuan thought to himself. It seems like only a small number of people in the Whale Ocean Trade know about the plan. If a person was used to treating creation masters as prey, then no matter how high the creation master's status was, they wouldn't be able to survive. This person could no longer maintain a trace of respect for creation masters. That made sense. The Whale Ocean Trade was a major project that involved the lives and deaths of entire clans. It would be strange if many people knew about it. Perhaps only the higher-ups of the forces would know about it. since the person controlling the drifting light feather crane was clearly aware of the situation. Lin Yuan simply walked forward, intending to probe for information through this person's mouth. As a result, when Lin Yuan walked closer, before Lin Yuan could speak, this person spoke first. Before I came, the family head gave me a mission. Our Whale Ocean Trading Company's experiment is of great importance. You are not allowed to bring your cell phones with you when participating in the experiment. Now, give me your phones. After the experiment is over, I will return them to you. Upon hearing this person's words, Lin Yuan stopped in his tracks. The expressions of the other creation masters behind Lin Yuan suddenly darkened. Cell phones were personal items that involved personal privacy. Even an ordinary person would feel conflicted when their cell phone was taken away. Moreover, the ones who had their cell phones taken away were a group of creation masters who were usually aloof. Chapter 1498. However, Lin Yuan knew that if he did not hand over the cell phone, this person would not let it go. The whale ocean trade would never allow the creation masters who participated in the experiment to leak the information. When the man had turned around, Lin Yuan had felt a sense of pressure. He had also felt this pressure from Duan He and Ji Feng. This meant that the person sent by the Whale Ocean Trading Company to control the floating light feather crane was an emperor rank expert. If someone did not hand over their phone, there was a high possibility of bloodshed. After all, it was always a good idea to make an example out of the crowd. If there were emperor-class experts among the creation masters, both sides would clash. It was very likely that the floating light feather crane would not be able to return to the old residence of the Whale Ocean Trading Company. This way, he would not be able to smoothly participate in the Whale Ocean's trade plan. As for those creation masters who had successfully rushed to the Whale Ocean for trade, they would most likely encounter an accident within a short period of time. With that in mind, Lin Yuan did not intend to give this person a chance to make an example out of him. He took the lead and handed over his phone. Before boarding the floating light feather crane, he had already contacted Night Leaning Moon for the last time. Night Leaning Moon informed him that all 5,000 spirit guards were in position. They were just waiting for Lin Yuan to crush the Night Jade as a signal. Everyone had a herd mentality. As the leader, Lin Yuan was the first to hand over the cell phone. The other creation masters who weren't willing to resist had also handed over their cell phones. More than half of the creation masters who were unwilling to hand over their cell phones had already handed over their cell phones. Thus, he no longer persisted. Soon, all the creation masters on the back of the floating light feather crane handed over their cell phones. The other floating light feather cranes did not have a leader like Lin Yuan. The process of collecting the phones was not going smoothly, and some of them had already gotten into conflict. However, they were still in midair and had yet to reach the old residence of the Whale Ocean Trading Company. Creation masters could summon phase to escape. The person riding the floating light feather crane played the role of the bad cop, while the attendant played the role of the good cop. The Whale Ocean Trade Union also played the role of the bad cop. Finally, all the creation masters handed over their cell phones. At this moment, many of the creation masters were frowning. He vaguely sensed that something was not quite right. However, the extremely fast floating light feather crane had already carried the creation masters back to the Whale Ocean Trading Company's old residence. When he arrived at the Whale Ocean Trading Company's old mansion, he sized up the surroundings. The old residence of the Whale Ocean Trading Company had an elegant environment, and it was landscaped with gardens. Looking at it made people feel relaxed and at ease. From the interior design and layout of the old residence, one could see the foundation of Whale Ocean Trading Company as one of the three peak powers. Within the study of the Whale Ocean Trading Company's old residence, Di Wandian and Di Wanqing were standing beside a black-robed figure. Di Wandian, who had always been imposing, spoke gently to the black-robed figure. "Third sister, your current condition is not suitable for sunlight, but we don't have much time left. I didn't expect the Class 6 Abyss Dimensional Rift to open so quickly. Our Whale Ocean trade gathered so many creation masters in the name of an experiment. It was a risky move in itself. According to the Star Web, many people have already attributed this matter to our whale ocean trade. Now that the market prices are changing and creation masters are in a shortage of resources, many people have already attributed this matter to our whale ocean trade. Even if they can't leave now, they will definitely come to visit our whale ocean trade in a week. Whether we can succeed or not depends on you, third sister. A soft and weak voice came from the figure under the black robe. Big brother, I can persist. The four-legged beast region is ultimately an apex faction supported by Hearthstone. Hearthstone's own creation master resources aren't strong, but they have spent a lot to strengthen the four-legged beast region's creation master resources. It's all thanks to Hearthstone's plan to let the four-legged beast region monopolize the beast-type Fey market. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to absorb so many bodies with rich knowledge. I have already absorbed all the Class 4 creation masters in the four-legged beast region, but I haven't absorbed the creation masters below Class 3. It just so happens that I will bring them, the creation masters that arrived a few days ago, and the creation masters that just arrived today into the hidden room. I am confident that I can reach Class 5 after consuming half of the creation master bodies. Di Wandian immediately got Di Wanqing to make the arrangements. Since this morning, Di Wanqing's expression had been a little flustered. Di Wanqing might be an immortal now, but this matter was too important. Not only was it related to the whale ocean trade's honor, but it also involved the lives of tens of thousands of creation masters. Di Wanqing couldn't help but ask after hearing that his third sister only needed to consume half of the creation master bodies to reach Class 5. Third sister, if you are only going to consume half of the creation master bodies, what are you going to do with the remaining half? The black-robed woman's soft and weak voice echoed again. However, this soft and weak voice's words were abnormally ruthless. Second brother, after becoming a Class 5 creation master, don't stop me from absorbing the bodies with rich knowledge. That half of the creation master bodies will be the dessert to stabilize my rank as a Class 5 creation master. I am able to become a Class 5 creation master because of my mutated soul and my sacred source life form, the rotten body ginseng. My sacred source life form, the rotten body ginseng, is now at the pinnacle of Class 7. This time, these tens of thousands of creation masters might be able to upgrade my sacred source life form, the rotten body ginseng, to Class 8. Di Wandian and Di Wanqing were shocked when they heard this. According to Di Wandian and Di Wanqing's impression, shouldn't their third sister's sacred source life form be at Class 6? Shouldn't it be in the growth phase? How did it suddenly become the growth phase, and at the pinnacle of Class 7? Di Wanqing was the family head of the whale ocean trade and a high-class immortal expert, but his sacred source life form was only at the elementary Class 7. If his third sister's sacred source life form was at the pinnacle Class 7, then what kind of strength would she have? His third sister had only said that her sacred source life form was at Class 7 today. Could it be that third sister would hide something from him and Wanqing? But Di Wandian obviously didn't have the time to ask about this. Compared to all this, it was more important for his third sister to become a Class 5 creation master. Only when his third sister became a Class 5 creation master would she be able to protect the entire whale ocean trade from the Lord's attack. She would bring glory to the whale ocean trade. While Di Wandian and Di Wanqing were busy with the black-robed woman, they didn't notice the exceptionally profound look in the black-robed woman's eyes. That profound look was indifferent, distant, and had a hint of mockery. It was as if she was an existence that was above humans and looked down on human lives. Thinking about the feast in a moment, the black-robed woman's lips curled into a dangerous smile. Chapter 1499. Many of the creation masters thought that after arriving at the Whale Ocean Trading Company's old residence, they would be treated well. Tonight, the Whale Ocean Trading Company would host a banquet to welcome them. During the banquet, several Class 4 creation masters from the Sea-Sky lineage would be attending. After all, among the tens of thousands of creation masters, there were close to 10 Class 4 creation masters. Among the 10 Class 4 creation masters, 2 of them were at the advanced stage, and 1 was at the pinnacle stage. These creation masters were all big shots in the Radiance sect. Any pinnacle Class 4 creation master would be fought over and fawned over by the top factions. If this pinnacle Class 4 creation master joined a new top faction like Li Yun Avian Can, he would immediately be promoted as an elder. The pinnacle Class 4 creation master who came to the Whale Ocean Trading Company was called Crane Ji. Among the pinnacle Class 4 creation masters, she was a rare female creation master. Crane Ji had come to the Whale Ocean Trading Company because she was an old friend of the Sea Sky lineage's creation masters. However, Crane Ji had not seen or heard any news of her old friends for over a decade. Rather than saying that Crane Ji was here to participate in the Whale Ocean Trading Company's experiment, it would be better to say that Crane Ji was here to visit her friends. At that moment, the creation masters who came to the Whale Ocean Trading Company's creation masters' original plans were all in vain. The actual situation was completely different from what these creation masters thought. The Whale Ocean Trading Company seemed to be in a hurry, and one of the myriad flags elder immediately appeared and spoke to everyone. Everyone here is the latest batch of creation masters to arrive at the Whale Ocean Trade Union. The creation masters who arrived earlier have already started working. The four-legged beast region's high-class creation masters have also been hired by our Whale Ocean Trading Company. Everyone, please go and meet up with the other creation masters immediately. Our Whale Ocean Trading Company will then assign all of you jobs. As soon as the myriad flags elder spoke, many of the creation masters' faces turned completely gloomy. The most gloomy one was the pinnacle Class 4 creation master, Crane Ji. Ji took a step forward and asked the elder in an arrogant tone. Di Jianghu, you should know me, right? Why are you in such a hurry? You don't even give us time to settle down and rest? Elder Di Jianghu of the Whale Ocean Trade's 10,000 Banners lineage looked at the person who spoke. He immediately felt a sense of foreboding. Crane Concubine's temper was not good, and she was shrewd with age. It was not easy to fool her. However, since things had already come to this, Di Jianghu couldn't be bothered to brush Crane Concubine off. Isn't it because our Whale Ocean Trade has encountered some problems? The elders of the Ocean Sky lineage are all working overtime to solve these problems. It just so happens that Senior Crane Bell is here, and there are so many creation masters here. I wanted to call all of you over to take a look and see who can find a solution. From the moment she boarded the floating light feather crane and had her phone taken away, Crane Concubine had sensed that something was wrong with this trip. The old fogies of the Sea Sky bloodline were all extremely knowledgeable. Back then, the Sea Sky lineage's Grand Elder was only one step away from becoming a Class 5 creation master. It was a problem that even the Sea Sky lineage's first elder could not solve, so there was no way he could. If the Class 1 and Class 2 creation masters went over, they would only be able to watch the show. It wasn't even enough to add to the chaos. If a group of creation masters squeezed together noisily, how could they concoct the spirit fluid with peace of mind? As long as one of them sneezed, everyone's spirit fluid would have to be redone. Furthermore, the Sea Sky lineage's Grand Elder was rather hospitable. Under normal circumstances, when so many creation masters arrived, there would definitely be plenty of attendants lining the streets to welcome them. It wouldn't be like this, where they didn't even have a place to stay. This made Crane Concubine feel as though they were a group of black-back mountain boars. They were being chased out of the slaughterhouse by the Fey breeding base's administrator. Ever since their phones had been taken away, many of the creation masters had been suppressing their anger. Now that Crane Concubine, who was a pinnacle Class 4 creation master, was the first to speak, a few Class 3 creation masters responded. I like to work in a quiet environment. If the Sea Sky lineage's elders and the four-legged beast region's high-class creation masters can't solve this problem, we won't be able to help even if we go. I have something that I need to make a call to contact my students. I haven't officially participated in the experiment, and I don't know what the experiment's purpose is. It shouldn't be a problem to take back my phone and make a call, right? As soon as these words were spoken, most of the Class 1 and Class 2 creation masters responded in unison. Apart from Crane Concubine, the few Class 4 creation masters were frowning tightly. They acted as though they were determined to make Whale Ocean Trade's myriad flags elder, Di Jianghu, give them an explanation. At the Class 4 Creation Master stage, they didn't need to be afraid of offending any factions. If one faction didn't like them, there would be others who did. Creation Masters were the #1 productive force. Therefore, when faced with the Whale Ocean Trade's attitude, these Class 4 Creation Masters had the intention to retreat. These Class 4 Creation Masters had the intention to retreat and did not plan to continue staying to help the Whale Ocean Trade. Lin Yuan looked at the current scene full of gunpowder and thought, this is bad. Although he was now at the Whale Ocean Trade's old residence, he didn't gather with the other Creation Masters who had rushed to the Whale Ocean Trade in advance. Firstly, Lin Yuan wasn't sure of the Whale Ocean Trade's purpose. Secondly, Lin Yuan was afraid that if he made a move, he wouldn't be able to protect those Creation Masters who weren't here. Therefore, Lin Yuan had to think of a way to ensure that these Creation Masters wouldn't clash with the Whale Ocean Trade and agree to gather first. This was the only way to make the Whale Ocean Trade reveal its hidden fangs. It would let Lin Yuan understand the Whale Ocean Trade's true plot. Lin Yuan, who was hidden in the crowd, squeezed through the crowd and stood out. Why don't we go and see the situation first? I'm friends with the young family head of the Sea Sky lineage, Ji Feng. I'm mainly here to visit a friend. Lin Yuan looked at Di Jianhong and asked, why are you here? Ji Feng should be at the experiment site, right? Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Di Jianhong stared at Lin Yuan for a long time before replying, that's right. Young Master Ji Feng and the Sea Sky lineage's elders are at the experiment site. If you're visiting a friend, you can naturally reunite with them when you reach the experiment site. Upon hearing Di Jianhong's words, Lin Yuan carefully thought about the word reunite. The Myriad Flag's lineage had personally killed the Sea Sky lineage's elder. In the eyes of the Myriad Flag's lineage, Ji Feng, who had luckily escaped, should be a dead man. He said it was a reunion, but didn't he just want to send them to their deaths? When Crane Maiden heard Di Jianhong say that the Sea Sky lineage's elders were at the experiment site, she took a step back. She planned to wait until she saw the Sea Sky lineage's elders and not bother about Di Jianhong's rudeness. Chapter 1500. However, even though Crane Concubine had taken a step back, the other Class 3 and Class 4 Creation Masters didn't plan to back down. As a result, the atmosphere was still very tense. However, without the Class 4 Creation Master, Crane Concubine, taking the lead, the other two Class 4 Creation Masters did not say anything. The situation on both sides was obviously leaning towards Di Jianhong's direction. Right at this moment, a low voice sounded. My apologies, everyone. Our Whale Ocean Trading Company has been extremely busy with the experiments. We didn't have the time to provide you with the best conditions. How about this, follow me to the location of the experiment first. After gathering, my Whale Ocean Trading Company will host the grandest banquet for everyone. A tall man in a plain golden robe walked towards the crowd. This man had a pair of phoenix eyes and looked somewhat evil. However, Lin Yuan could faintly see a trace of heaviness and hesitation on Zhang Xian's calm face. When Di Jianhong saw who it was, he hurriedly lowered his head and greeted Second Master. Di Wanqing waved his hand at Di Jianhong, motioning for him to leave first. Di Wanqing had recently become a hot topic among the various major forces. Ever since news of Di Wanqing's breakthrough broke out in the Whale Ocean Trading Company, which originally belonged to the top 3 factions, had become one of the top 3 factions. He was able to suppress the Brahma bug cage and the Rhine life form. Now that Di Wanqing, who was an immortal expert, had arrived, the Class 3 Creation Masters who were originally in confrontation with Di Jianhong no longer had any face left. Only Lady Crane had the right to speak to Di Wanqing on equal footing. But now, it was clear that Surumi was not going to stand up for him. As a result, those Creation Masters who were originally resisting also lost the courage to resist. Di Wanqing nodded at Crane Lady as a form of greeting. Then, his gaze landed on Lin Yuan. With this glance, Di Wanqing's eyes immediately focused. Lin Yuan's aura was truly special, but after sensing, he was only a B-rank spirit chi professional. They couldn't create any waves at all. Di Wanqing had been able to see through him at a glance because he had asked the princess to deactivate the concealment function on his grade. Otherwise, Di Wanqing wouldn't have been able to see through him with a single glance. Di Wanqing would have definitely tested him. Just when Lin Yuan thought that Di Wanqing would look away from him, Di Wanqing said, "Don't worry. You said you're good friends with Feng, Feng has been living in seclusion with an elder of the Ocean Sky branch for nearly 10 years. 10 years ago, you were still a child, right?" Lin Yuan replied with a smile. The friendships formed in childhood are even deeper. I remember that the Myriad Flag's lineage's young patriarch, Zhai Hao, had publicly expressed his friendship with Ji Feng on the star web. It's just that I can't compare to Zhai Hao, who was able to meet Ji Feng during the 10 years that Ji Feng was in seclusion. Upon hearing Lin Yuan mention Zhai Hao, Di Wanqing's expression clearly changed. Lin Yuan keenly captured this trace of change. Di Wanqing looked at Lin Yuan as though he was looking at a dead man and then said to everyone, "Don't worry. Follow me." Due to the importance of this experiment, our Whale Ocean Trading Company has specially built an underground palace. When you enter the underground palace, I hope that you will line up on your own and not make any noise. If Di Zhanhong had said this earlier, those Class 2 and Class 3 creation masters would definitely reveal an unhappy expression. But now that it was said by Di Wanqing, it was different. Lin Yuan originally wanted to continue blending into the crowd and stand in an inconspicuous position. He heard Crane concubines say in a voice that only the two of them could hear, "Just walk beside me. You can walk beside me. You should be a member of the Whale Ocean Trade, right?" The corners of Lin Yuan's mouth twitched. Then, he quickly understood why Crane concubine would think so. Lin Yuan remembered that he and Crane concubine were riding on a floating light feather crane. At that time, the person driving the floating light feather crane and the attendant who received the report were obviously playing the good cop and the bad cop. When playing the good cop and the bad cop could not solve the problem, they needed a spy who went with the flow. The person who played the good cop and the bad cop would eventually achieve his goal. When Lin Yuan collected the Creation Master's cell phone and confronted Di Zhanhong with many Creation Masters, he played the role of a spy. However, all of this was just a coincidence for Lin Yuan to achieve his goal. Of course, Lin Yuan would not explain these to Crane concubine. Lin Yuan did not nod or deny it. Instead, he cupped his hands at Crane concubine and obediently followed her. Lin Yuan's behavior made Crane concubine's stomach surge up, and she almost burst out. Crane concubine only felt that the kid beside her was simply a piece of troublesome meat. Soon, under Di Wanqing's lead, everyone arrived at the entrance to the underground space that Di Wanqing had mentioned. This underground space was built on the mountain behind the Whale Ocean Trading Company. It was similar to the underground space that Lin Yuan had built in the Return from Faraway Mansion. When the Whale Ocean Trading Company built this underground space, it could order the spirit craftsmen to use a large number of suzerain metals and spatial spiritual materials. The underground space was built like an iron cage that was isolated from the world. This way, everything that happened in the underground space would not be known by the people on the surface. Di Wanqing single-handedly opened the underground space's door from the outside. Lin Yuan soon smelled a faint decaying aura. This smell of decay. The Creation Masters were already used to it. This was because after many spiritual materials decayed, they would have more medicinal properties than when they were fresh. Therefore, the Creation Masters were already used to this smell of decay. After passing through the door and entering the underground space, there was a long tunnel with strange fire lamps hanging on both sides. The underground space looked almost as bright as the outside. After Di Wanqing opened the door, he did not enter first. Instead, he guarded the door. He watched as the Creation Masters passed through the space tunnel and headed toward the underground space. After the last Creation Master passed through the door, Di Wanqing entered the tunnel and closed the door tightly. The closed door was like a hungry beast's tightly shut mouth. It made the Creation Masters at the back of the team feel a chill down their backs. Lin Yuan and Crane Concubine walked at the front of the team. Lin Yuan could not remember how many steps he had gone down. Since entering the tunnel, he had walked for a total of over 20 minutes. From the height, Lin Yuan was currently 800 meters below the ground. This depth was much deeper than the return from faraway mansion's underground space. At that moment, a desperate curse came from below. What did the Whale Ocean Trading Company do to my grandfather, father, and uncle? Why haven't I seen them for 4 days? And why did you kill the Class 3 creation masters of the four-legged beast region? Does the Whale Ocean Trading Company want to destroy the four-legged beast region? Chapter 1501. Along with these desperate curses, there were many other noises. Such a loud noise should have reached everyone's ears when they entered the space tunnel. However, it was only at this part that everyone heard it. It was obvious that a large amount of sound-isolating metal spirit materials had been added to the walls in the first half. And now, this part of the wall was no longer filled with metal spirit materials that could isolate sound. This meant that the people of the Whale Ocean Trading Company were no longer afraid that the public would learn the truth. This mournful voice sounded rather familiar to Lin Yuan, as though he had heard it somewhere before. The mournful screams and other noisy curses caused the orderly creation master team to be in chaos. Just at this moment, a wave of air surged behind him. The shock wave was so powerful that it pushed everyone, including Crane Concubine, out of the tunnel. The people who were pushed out of the tunnel by a huge force were placed on an empty space of several thousand square meters. A large number of strange flame lamps illuminated the empty space, making it look somewhat eerie. At that moment, a large number of creation masters were squeezing in this empty space. A youth was kneeling on the ground nearby. His eyes were filled with anger and despair as he held 3 corpses in his arms. A man and a figure shrouded in black robes sat on 2 giant stone thrones. The man's face was filled with excitement and longing. It was as if a reality that he had been looking forward to was about to come true. The figure shrouded in the black robe was like a monster hidden in the darkness, not revealing any aura. At that moment, Crane Concubine shouted with a gloomy expression. Diwandian, what's going on? Crane Concubine had clearly recognized the man sitting on the giant stone throne. Diwandian pretended not to hear Heji's words. His gaze pierced through the crowd and asked the person at the back of the crowd. Second brother, did anyone escape? Di Wancheng, who was at the back of the crowd, flew over to Di Wantian's side. He sat on the empty stone throne on Di Wantian's left side and said, Big brother, everything went smoothly. After speaking, Di Wancheng looked at the tens of thousands of creation masters behind him. His tone was heavy as he asked the figure shrouded in a black robe. Third sister, if you can rely on half of the creation masters to become a Class 5 creation master, why don't you leave half of them behind? At this time and place, under such circumstances, Di Wancheng did not conceal his words at all. There was no need to hide anything. There were indeed pinnacle Class 4 creation masters like Crane Concubine here. However, as a pinnacle Class 4 creation master, Crane Concubine only had the talent as a creation master. She didn't have the talent as a combat class spirit chi professional like the Moon Empress, Chef Supreme, or Bamboo Monarch. The S-rank spirit chi professional, Crane Concubine, was only at the pinnacle of Emperor class even after using her 3 main phase. Di Wandian and Di Wancheng had reached the immortal realm long ago. The Whale Ocean Trading Company hadn't divulged this information in order to conceal its power. Therefore, Di Wancheng didn't care about anyone present. In order to build this underground space, the Whale Ocean Trading Company had even used a monarch rank space-type metal, space-shattering purple gold. Even if an expert who had just reached the immortal realm used his full power in this underground space, he would still be able to escape. The wall with the addition of the Void Break Fund could also completely block out the energy fluctuations within. The underground space wrapped in space-shattering purple gold was like a different world that was imprisoned. Adds big Google equals by Google. Push, only the experts at the peak of Immortal Realm could break the purple gold cage. But where would the peak of Immortal Realm experts come from? If there really was a peak of Immortal Realm expert, the Whale Ocean Trading Company would have long been gone. It wouldn't be Di Wancheng and Di Wantian's turn to take the lives of these creation masters and pave the way for third sister to become a Class 5 creation master. Di Wancheng's undisguised words caused all the creation masters to look at Di Wancheng and the black-robed figure sitting on the limestone throne in shock. Di Wancheng might not have said it clearly, but all the creation masters had already guessed the situation. Was the Whale Ocean Trading trying to use the lives of all the creation masters here to create a Class 5 creation master? How would the Whale Ocean Trading dare to do so? What was the difference between the Whale Ocean Trading Company doing this and cutting off the roots of radiance? More than half of these 10,000 creation masters were below the age of 40. They had great potential for development. If these 10,000 creation masters were to work for 10 years, they would be able to provide at least 80 million spirit chi professionals with phase. They would also be able to provide follow-up enhancement services for 10 million phase. The resources of the creation masters were almost equivalent to the strength of the Federation. Before Di Wantian and the black-robed figure could respond to Di Wancheng, Crane Concubine immediately summoned all her phase. 3 figures shrouded in mist appeared beside Crane Concubine. They surrounded Crane Concubine in the middle in a triangular formation. These 3 figures didn't conceal the aura of creation seed phase at all. 3 kinds of world forces, which were almost the same, diffused in this underground space. However, when the world powers touched the wall, they couldn't penetrate it at all. Crane Concubine, who noticed the situation, knew that it wasn't good. The Whale Ocean Trading Company was indeed prepared. Crane Concubine summoned her phase. She wanted to make the first move and escape this underground space. Now, it seemed that it was impossible. Crane Concubine shouted at the 3 people on the green stone throne. What is the Whale Ocean Trading Company trying to do? You have to think twice before you do anything. Using the blood of tens of thousands of creation masters to pave the path to become a Class 5 creation master. How can you do such a heinous thing? When you became a Class 1 creation master, didn't the mentor who assessed you tell you that the most important thing for a creation master is the inheritance? Upon hearing Di Wancheng's words, Di Wantian's face revealed obvious displeasure. Facing Crane Concubine's questioning, Di Wantian's face turned cold and flipped his hand. A palm-sized silver bird appeared in Di Wantian's hand. The moment this silver bird appeared, it immediately flickered 3 times like an arrow that left the bow. Immediately after, 3 bowl-sized black holes appeared in the bellies of the 3 young girls who were surrounded by smoke and sand. Through the black holes, Lin Yuan could see the robes of the spirit chi professionals behind them. Not a single drop of blood flowed out of the wounds, but the 3 phase in human form all collapsed on the ground with a weak aura. They didn't even have the ability to get up. Lin Yuan used Morbius True Data to investigate the silver bird that returned to Di Wantian's hand. After investigating, Lin Yuan realized that he could only see that this silver bird was called the Sky-Splitting Falcon. As for its abilities and exclusive skills, they were all question marks and couldn't be detected at all. It was obvious that the Sky-Splitting Falcon's strength had reached the immortal realm. Chapter 1502. However, based on the attack just now, this Sky-Splitting Falcon was undoubtedly a spatial fae. The moment the Sky-Splitting Falcon pierced through the 3 crane species phase, it used the power of space to expel their internal organs. Such an attack was truly cruel. Seeing that her phase were severely injured, Crane Concubine looked at Di Wantian with a sinister expression. However, Crane Concubine could not do anything at all. Immortality was a hurdle that Crane Concubine could not climb over. It was not because Crane Concubine was a pinnacle Class 4 creation master and could not concoct a spirit fluid that could promote phase to immortality. It was also because Crane Concubine could not find a divine immortal expert to help her main fae transcend the tribulation. It was because Crane Concubine's talent was limited, and she could not break through the limit of S-rank spirit chi professionals to become an S+ spirit chi professional. This made Crane Concubine unable to contract an immortal fae even if she had gone through the rolling grade. In the face of life and death, only strength was the hard truth. Di Wantian's strength was a knife across Crane Concubine's neck. As long as Di Wantian wanted to, he could take Crane Concubine's life at any time. But at that moment, Crane Concubine was not only thinking about her own life and death. She was more worried that these creation masters would all die in the whale ocean trade. That would undoubtedly be a Radiance's death. Di Wantian sneered and looked at Crane Concubine. What do you mean by committing atrocities? Spirit chi professionals can kill and snatch treasures, but they are just following the most primitive law of the jungle. I used other creation masters' lives to pave the way for my third sister, and I am also following the most basic law of the jungle. You used your life to witness the birth of a Class 5 creation master, and it is originally your merit. When you die, it will be the most glorious moment of your life. Di Wantian's words were shameless, and Crane Concubine was so angry that her body was trembling. At that moment, Crane Concubine, who had never been old, suddenly felt that she was old. After understanding the true purpose of the myriad flags lineage, Crane Concubine knew that the sea-sky lineage was not going to hide from the world. Instead, they had all been murdered by the whale ocean trade. Crane Concubine, who was quick-witted, decided to take the risk. She would sacrifice herself in the creation seed phase that had accompanied her for over 200 years to exchange for the black-robed figure. Now that the black-robed figure was dead, the whale ocean trade's myriad flags lineage's desire to have a Class 5 creation master was also gone. He didn't dare to guarantee that the enraged Di Wantian and Di Wanqing wouldn't make a move on these creation masters. At the very least, it gave Di Wantian and Di Wanqing a trace of reason to let these creation masters off. Just as Crane Concubine was about to circulate her spiritual power, she felt a pair of strong hands supporting her trembling body. Crane turned her head and found that the person who was supporting her was the spy that she thought was holding her. Just as Crane Maiden was about to push this ordinary-looking but charismatic youth away, Lin Yuan spoke. "Senior, leave the rest to me." Before Lin Yuan could finish speaking, a sudden change occurred. Two screams and a sorrowful wail rang out from the direction of the throne. A small black insect stabbed its stinger into Di Wantian, Di Wanqing, and the sky-splitting falcon. Di Wantian, Di Wanqing, and the sky-splitting falcon immediately entered a state of paralysis. Immediately after, Di Wantian and Di Wanqing's bodies were lifted up by something that looked like vines. A large number of vines pierced into Di Wantian and Di Wanqing's bodies. Even the sky-splitting falcon that Di Wanqing had just summoned couldn't escape the fate of being entangled by the vines. Every feather of the sky-splitting falcon was comparable to the hardness of monarch-grade spiritual ingredients. However, they were still pierced by these brown vines. However, Lin Yuan felt that these things that were entangling Di Wanqing, Di Wantian, and the sky-splitting falcon were more like the roots of some kind of plant than vines. The pierced Di Wanqing and Di Wantian turned their heads with difficulty and looked at the figure shrouded in a black robe. They asked in disbelief. "Third sister, what are you doing?" Upon hearing Di Wantian and Di Wanqing's question, the black-robed figure sitting on the limestone throne stood up quietly. Then, she took off the black robe on her body. A purple-haired, red-eyed, beautiful woman was standing in the same place. This woman had a clear and delicate temperament. It was as though a gust of wind could blow this thin and weak woman down. This place was obviously a purgatory filled with killing intent, but the woman's demeanor was like a lady strolling in the garden in the afternoon. The woman looked up at Di Wantian and Di Wanqing, and a soft and weak voice came out of her mouth. "Didn't Big Brother and Second Brother want me to become a Class 5 creation master the most? Actually, I have already become a Class 5 creation master. I just didn't tell you." Upon hearing the woman's words, Di Wanqing and Di Wantian seemed to have forgotten the pain of being pierced by the vines. They wanted to ask, but due to the momentary shock, they lost their voices. Upon seeing Di Wanqing and Di Wantian's expressions of disbelief, the woman shook her apricot-colored dress. She spoke in an exceptionally lazy tone. "I originally didn't want to kill Big Brother and Second Brother. I just wanted to leave Radiance after becoming a Class 5 creation master and find the second page of revival." The second page of Revival promised to let me become a special creation master of the Tower Canon. When the 8th page is damaged, I will be the one to replace it. Who would have thought that my sacred source life form, the rotten body ginseng, would obtain a new function when it became a Class 7 creation master? The rotten body ginseng's roots can be used as blood vessels to connect me with other life forms that have the same source of energy. They are the reserves of my spiritual power, vitality, and lifespan. Without the two big brothers' spiritual power, how can I refine over 10,000 creation masters in one go? If I don't refine over 10,000 creation masters, I won't be able to smoothly progress on my path to become a Class 5 creation master. Those who don't become Class 5 creation masters will never understand that becoming a Class 5 creation master is actually a threshold. Only when a Class 5 creation master is a Class 5 creation master would one be able to truly urge everything to evolve and evolve naturally. The two of you are wholeheartedly thinking about the glory of the whale ocean trade. Now, the two of you have become my batteries. Shouldn't the two of you be happier that my lifespan has doubled? As long as I, Di Wanmi, am alive, the glory of the whale ocean trade will always exist. The two big brothers can die in peace. After hearing Di Wanmi's words, Di Wantian and Di Wanqing were shocked and felt their hearts turn cold. They couldn't understand why their little sister, who had been pampered since she was young, would say such things. To do such a thing, Di Wanqing had always felt that he couldn't bear to make a move on creation masters. Di Wantian could bear to make a move on creation masters, but he had never thought of betraying Radiance. This was because Di Wantian had always treated himself as a member of Radiance. However, Di Wantian had placed the family's interests in an irreplaceable position. Even if it hurt Radiance, he wanted the family to prosper. But now, his little sister said that she wanted to leave Radiance and become a special creation master of the Tower Canon. You're tuning in to the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.